Chapter 641 Blood-Winged Eight-Clawed Dragon. As the group's spirits were bolstered by their consistent gains, they gathered blood moon stones with even greater vigor within the blood moon forest. Yichen's intuition contributed the most. Of course, several of the Zhou family's true gods, and the young Zhou Yu also made discoveries. With everyone working together, in less than an hour, they had gathered more than 900 blood moon stones, which left them with just a few short of their target of 1,000. They even began to hope that they might gather even more blood moon stones to save up some black divine coins for Zhou Yu's brother, Zhou Dun. This day was indeed when the blood moon forest was teeming with the most monsters, and along the way, the group encountered numerous monster attacks. However, as they searched for blood moon stones on the outer edge of the forest, the strongest monsters they encountered were only of the 5 tribulations true god level. The 6 middle-aged men leading the way easily dispatched these monsters, ensuring that Yichen, Zhou Yu, and Zhou Dun remained unharmed. Just when everyone thought this day would be a day of great harvest for the Zhou family from Fallen Moon City, they entered a mountain valley shrouded in a blood-red aura. Yichen, there are so many blood moon stones hidden underground here. This is strange. The bloody aura filling this valley is even thicker than when we first came from Circulation of Heaven Divine City and passed through the core area of the Blood Moon Forest. As soon as they entered the valley, Xiaojiu called out to Yichen. Yichen too was somewhat shaken. As soon as he entered the valley, he could feel the rich blood-red aura entering his body with every breath, nourishing his spirit wonderfully. Yichen's mind swept over the ground and likewise discovered countless blood moon stones hidden beneath the earth. Clearly, this valley was no ordinary place. It was likely a precious treasure site or some peculiar realm. While Yichen and Xiaojiu were closely examining this area, the 6 middle-aged men of the Zhou family ahead also noticed the valley's extraordinariness. We've never been to this area before, but the blood moon aura here is so strong. Blood moon stones. There must be many here. The 6 middle-aged men grew excited, and the young Zhou Yu and her brother Zhou Dun were similarly thrilled. They had already gained much on their journey and had ventured off their usual path. Now they had entered an area with such a dense blood-red aura. Having already found more than 900 blood moon stones, if they discovered more here, reaching over 1,000 to provide Zhou Yu with enough black divine coins to go to the Circulation of Heaven Divine Institute would be no problem at all. At this thought, the graceful and elegant Zhou Yu couldn't help but smile. At that moment, both Yichen and Xiaojiu exclaimed, "Not good!" Zhou Yu, who was next to Yichen, saw him burst forward at a speed she had never seen before, towards the 6 middle-aged men of the Zhou family who were examining the blood moon stones. What's happened? Both siblings, Zhou Yu and Zhou Dun, were shocked. Then, they saw a surge of blood mist suddenly rise in the valley ahead of them. Within the mist, the 6 middle-aged Zhou family members vanished in an instant. This sudden change completely stunned Zhou Yu and her brother Zhou Dun. Their father and uncles were true gods of the 4, 5, and 6 tribulations. How could they just disappear all of a sudden? This was only the outskirts of the Blood Moon Forest. It simply wasn't possible to encounter something that could overpower true gods of the 6 tribulations without a fight. Could this odd valley be the reason? While the siblings were still in shock, they heard Yichen's voice. It's a special space. This valley hides a special realm within it. They've been pulled into the special realm. Let's hurry in and find them. Don't let anything happen to them. Boom! As Yichen spoke, he swept his true chi toward a half-meter tall rock in front of him. The rock emitted a bloody mist that enveloped Yichen, making him vanish from sight. Yichen had seen that the blood mist which had taken the 6 middle-aged men was emanating from that very rock, leading him to discover the special space hidden within it. Hearing Yichen's words and seeing him disappear, Zhou Yu and her brother Zhou Dun bit their lips in determination. They flew to the rock where Yichen had disappeared and, like him, swept their true chi toward the rock, vanishing from sight. Once the dizziness of entering the special realm dissipated, the young Zhou Yu saw the scenery before her, and her rosy little mouth opened wide in shock, her chest heaving dramatically. She saw that it was a vast, somewhat desolate and dilapidated space, with piles of white bones strewn across the ground before her. Yi-chun, who had disappeared earlier, along with her father and uncles, were now looking up into the sky. Her younger brother, Zhou Dun, was equally shocked as he looked toward the sky. Looking into the sky, one could see a gigantic dragon, over 1,000 zhang in length, lowering its head, its divine eyes staring right at them. This enormous dragon had a pair of blood-red wings and 8 blood-red claws. As soon as she saw the dragon, Zhou Yu couldn't believe her eyes and screamed, "Blood-winged 8-clawed dragon." She had never seen such a creature before, but there was a legend in Fallen Moon City about a formidable 9 tribulations true god monstrous beast, the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon, in the Blood Moon Forest. This blood-winged 8-clawed dragon had devoured many warriors who entered the Blood Moon Forest, including a large number of 7 tribulations and 8 tribulations true gods. Zhou Yu had always believed that such a 9 tribulations true god monstrous beast would be at the core region of the Blood Moon Forest. She never imagined that this creature would appear on the outskirts of the Blood Moon Forest, within this special space, and had even captured her father and uncles within it. Looking at the countless white bones on the ground in this space, Zhou Yu knew that these must be the remains of the warriors who had been captured into this space by the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon and killed. The families of these gone warriors likely could never imagine that their loved ones died within this special space. Zhou Yu couldn't believe that they had actually encountered such a 9 tribulations true god monstrous beast. Could it be that they all were destined to die in this place, becoming nothing but piles of bones? Now that Zhou Yu had recognized the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon, so had the other members of the Zhou family. At that moment, everyone's faces were deathly pale. This was a 9 tribulations true god monstrous beast, after all. The most powerful among them was none other than Zhou Yu's father, Zhou Tianhao, who was at the 6 tribulations true god realm. Facing a 9 tribulations true god monstrous beast, a 6 tribulations true god had absolutely no chance of resisting and was doomed to die. Originally, when the 6 middle-aged men from the Zhou family were drawn into this space and discovered the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon, their hearts sank completely. Now, seeing that Zhou Yu, Zhou Dun, and Yi-chun had followed them in, they became even more panicked. "Where? Dunna? Yi-chun? How did you come in here, too? Run! Run for your lives!" In the midst of speaking, Zhou Tianhao and the other 5 turned their bodies around and were about to fly towards Zhou Yu, Zhou Dun, and Yi-chun, intending to quickly flee with them across the land. At that moment, the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon in the sky simply opened its mouth and exhaled. A burst of blood-colored breath instantly immobilized all 6 true gods, including Zhou Tianhao, on the ground. Moreover, the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon looked at Yi-chun, Zhou Yu, and Zhou Dun and spoke in a human voice. "I was content to eat these 6 tough old fellows first, but I didn't expect you younglings to walk right into my trap. Oh well, I might as well eat you all together." The blood-winged 8-clawed dragon opened its mouth and exhaled again, and a burst of blood-colored breath shot towards Yi-chun, Zhou Yu, and Zhou Dun, binding them as well. Then, as the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon seemed to pace leisurely in the sky, it glanced at Zhou Tianhao and the other 5, then at the youngest Zhou Dun, and slowly said, "Which one should I eat first?" The words of the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon made the youngest on the scene, Zhou Dun, cry in fear, "Sister, father!" Zhou Dun, just 15 years of age, had never seen such spectacle. The blood-winged 8-clawed dragon wasn't planning to kill them instantly but seemed to savor their taste, wanting to eat them one by one, which utterly terrified Zhou Dun. Hearing Zhou Dun's cries, Zhou Yu, Zhou Tianhao, and the others who were also bound felt their hearts being torn apart. They hadn't expected what was supposed to be a day of great harvest to end this way. Could this be the sorrow born of extreme joy? Read latest chapters at novelbin.com. Tears also streamed down Zhou Yu's beautiful eyes as she looked at Yi-chun, her heart filled with just one thought. What a pity it was for such a young man who could instinctively detect the blood moon stones. She had promised to lead him out of the Blood Moon Forest, but in the end, She had caused him to lose his life along with them. With her heart heavy with sorrow as she looked at Yi Chen, Zhou Yu was taken aback when her gaze fully fell upon Yi Chen's face, because she noticed that Yi Chen, who should have been restrained like her, was suddenly stepping forward, taking a step forward, and as if sensing her gaze, he turned and smiled at her. Yi Chen, how can he move under the confinement of a 9 tribulations true God? Zhou Yu's tears hung on her face, confused. Then she suddenly remembered the way Yi Chen had swiftly flown towards her father and uncles outside of this special space, trying to save them. That movement, Zhou Yu knew, was impossible for her own father, Zhou Tianhao, even at the 6 tribulations true God realm, to perform. Could it be that Yi Chen, his strength is greater than father's? An idea suddenly flashed through Zhou Yu's mind. As her thoughts raced, she then heard Yi Chen's calm and collected voice in the face of the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon. Xiaojiu, it seems I have to make a move. Xiaojiu? When Zhou Yu was still in shock, she saw the little sparrow on Yi Chen's shoulder suddenly lift off, transforming into an immense azure giant bird, 1,000 zhong in size. An azure giant bird even more mystical than the blood-winged 8-clawed dragon in the sky. This azure giant bird even chuckled at Yi Chen. Yi Chen, go ahead and make your move. This is just an ordinary 9 tribulations true God monstrous beast. It's no match for you. Chapter 642. Shatter the Space. When they saw Xiaojiu transform into a 1,000-foot-tall giant azure sparrow in an instant, even the blood-wing 8-clawed dragon in the sky was so shocked that it flew backwards tens of thousands of feet. On the ground, Zhou Yu and her brother Zhou Dun, along with Zhou Tianhao and 6 others, were completely astonished with their mouths agape. They simply couldn't believe that a moment ago, it was the ordinary-looking small sparrow on Yi Chen's shoulder, and the next, it had transformed into a spirit sparrow infinitely more mystical than the blood-wing 8-clawed dragon. And although they couldn't sense the aura of this huge azure spirit sparrow, it gave them a feeling that the spirit sparrow might be even more formidable than the blood-wing 8-clawed dragon. What shocked Zhou Yu, Zhou Dun, Zhou Tianhao, and the others even more were the words of the azure spirit sparrow. The azure spirit sparrow actually said that the blood-wing 8-clawed dragon was just an ordinary 9th calamity true God demon, and not a match for Yi Chen.
Yi Chen.
The young man in the later stages of the heavenly saint realm who had walked with them all this way collecting blood moon stones? He could deal with a 9th calamity true God demon. Wasn't he just in the late stage of the heavenly saint realm? How could he possibly contend against the blood-wing 8-clawed dragon, a 9th calamity true God? Keep in mind, even among those in the later stages of the heavenly saint realm from the circulation of heaven divine city, not one would dare claim they could oppose a 9th calamity true God demon, fearing they couldn't even cope with a 5th calamity one. To confront a 9th calamity true God demon at the late stage of the heavenly saint realm, it would probably take those renowned geniuses nurtured by the divine venerable in the biggest divine cities of the divine kingdom's southern territory to do so. Zhou Tianhao and the others couldn't believe it. Zhou Yu and her brother Zhou Dun were even more incredulous. As they were in disbelief, Yi Chen, looking at Xiaojiu taking to the skies, merely smiled faintly. Xiaojiu, leave them to you for protection. I'll see what sort of combat power the demons of the divine kingdom possess. Whoosh! In an instant, Yi Chen drew out the purple lightning divine sword and, with a move, he shot up into the sky. When Yi Chen soared into the sky and released all of his immense battle aura, the sky for thousands of feet around was completely filled with his overwhelming presence, leaving Zhou Tianhao, Zhou Yu, and the others on the ground utterly astounded to the point where their eyeballs nearly fell out. The young man Yi Chen, who had accompanied them the whole way and who had a profound intuition for sensing blood moon stones, indeed possessed a terrifying aura that could absolutely oppose the blood-wing 8-clawed dragon. We're saved. We won't die here. Zhou Yu's eyes brimmed with tears of excitement, and Zhou Dun, who had been scared into crying by the blood-wing 8-clawed dragon's earlier threat to eat them, gazed at Yi Chen in the sky, his battle power fully unveiled, resembling a true god of the 9 heavens, and could only mutter, This, in the sky. Yi Chen, having drawn the purple lightning divine sword, looked at the blood-wing 8-clawed dragon and spoke with a light smile. Come on, you can't escape now. Will you defend your demon's honor in the divine kingdom by fighting a grand battle against me? Or will you wait for death without a fight? The blood-winged eight-clawed dragon was utterly bewildered at this point. It had roamed the Blood Moon Forest for tens of thousands of miles, devouring countless 7 calamity and 8 calamity true gods. Even when powerhouses from the circulation of Heaven Divine City had come to kill it, it always managed to hide in a special space ahead of time and never truly faced danger. One could say it was the master of the Blood Moon Forest. It had never considered that it might capsize in the gutter, that it would sense the threat of death from a young man in the later stages of the Heavenly Saint realm, whom it had previously not taken seriously. The blood-winged eight-clawed dragon also understood that, just as the youth had said, if it tried to flee, it would probably die even faster. The only chance at survival, perhaps, was to fight, and by killing this young man, it might be able to break out of this dangerous situation. With this thought, the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon's massive wings flapped violently, and it called out to Yi Chun and Xiaojiu in the sky. Will you two gang up on me, or will we fight one-on-one? Both of you coming at me together? Yi Chun knew this was a provocation by the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon. But for him, this mere demon from a small town outside the divine kingdom was not worth worrying about. If it were a 9th calamity true god great demon nurtured by the divine venerable, he might have taken it more seriously. To deal with this ordinary 9th calamity true god demon, he wouldn't even need to use his extreme-grade heaven-reaching magical sword. The purple lightning divine sword in his hand was sufficient. If I can't kill you within 3 strikes, I'll let you go. Yi Chun, holding the purple lightning divine sword, declared to the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon, your journey continues on Novelbin. Calm. Upon hearing Yi Chun's arrogant words, the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon roared in rage, audacious! Boom! In an instant, the 1,000-foot-wide wings of the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon flapped violently, and its entire form turned into a frenzied cyclone, hurling itself towards Yi Chun. At the same time, its 8 clawed limbs, like 8 fearsome divine weapons capable of tearing the sky, were furiously clawing towards Yi Chun's body. Seeing the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon take action and go straight for Yi Chun, even Zhou, who had previously been shaken by Yi Chun's formidable killing force, couldn't help but flash a hint of worry in her eyes. After all, she had never truly seen Yi Chun in action. As she worried, she heard Xiaojiu's voice reach her. Don't worry. Look, Yi Chun will definitely kill this demon within 3 moves. In an instant, Zhou felt the constraints on her body lifted and saw the massive azure spirit sparrow in the sky smiling and nodding at her. When Zhou looked to the side again, she also saw her father, her uncles, and her younger brother, all freed from their constraints and flying toward her. As the 8 of them gathered together and looked up at the battle in the sky, they just caught sight of Yi Chun facing off against the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon, launching his attack. This move was none other than the first of the Purple Lightning Divine Swords, 3 major forbidden sword moves. Purple Light. In an instant, the 8 members of the Zhou family saw Yi Chun's unmatched combat power surge into the divine sword in his hand. As the sword swung, the skies above, for tens if not hundreds of thousands of feet around, were completely engulfed by killing power. The entire world burst forth with countless extremely terrifying purple beams in a flash. Seeing the purple beams, Zhou Tianhao, a 6th tribulation true god from below, felt that any single one that struck him would kill him on the spot. Following the appearance of these purple beams, the shocking tornado conjured by the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon was completely shattered, revealing the blood-stained figure of the dragon. The blood-winged eight-clawed dragon's 8 enormous claws reaching toward Yi Chun were instantly splattered with blood across the sky. The blood-winged eight-clawed dragon let out a sharp, agonized scream and burst upwards for thousands of feet again. One move. Yi Chun's first move had wounded the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon. Such a terrifying sword move, so powerful. Zhou gazed at Yi Chun in the sky, his black hair fluttering in the wind, her eyes sparkling. At that moment, the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon, roaring beyond thousands of feet in the sky in a scream that seemed prompted by fury, bellowed at Yi Chun below. Youngster, You've angered me. Then, they saw the bloodlight around the entire body of the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon burn madly. Realizing it couldn't match Yi-chan, it began to burn its divine life force to trigger forbidden killing moves to compete with Yi-chan. Seeing the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon starting to risk its life, the Zhou family members clenched their fists tightly. Just then, they saw Yi-chan, his expression unwavering, holding the divine sword and bursting into the sky again. Yi-chan, soaring upwards, calmly spoke again. Purple lightning divine sword's second form. Extreme lightning. Boom! 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 In a split second, the Zhou family of 8 saw Yi-chan's divine sword draw a stunning streak of extreme electric sword aura that shot straight into the heavens and onto the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon. Even though the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon had burned its divine life force, Yi-chen's second sword move sent it flying tens of thousands of feet away yet again. And at that moment, Yi-chan misstepped and appeared in front of the retreating blood-winged eight-clawed dragon, announcing, "3 moves are over. Now try my Purple Lightning Divine Sword's third form, the ultimate killing move, Purple Lightning." This was an incredibly brilliant sword move. It was also a sword move that the sparkling-eyed Zhou Yu below would never forget. This sword move cut through the air with a rainbow that was thousands of feet long, like peerless purple lightning penetrating and destroying everything. The blood-winged eight-clawed dragon, already sent flying backward by the second move, was completely punctured in mid-air by this strike, its enormous 1,000-foot body utterly bursting apart, its life force wholly extinguished. In the end, the great demon blood-winged eight-clawed dragon that had dominated the Blood Moon Forest collapsed completely amidst this pile of skeletal ruins. And still, it did not stop. The final burst of purple lightning, from the Purple Lightning Divine Sword's ultimate forbidden move, continued even after killing the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon, directly blasting towards the space between the 9 heavens. Finally, the massive destructive power of this sword strike hit the mysterious spot at the very top of this space and made that place emit bursts of halos. Within the halos, the entire space seemed as if its vital point had been shattered, emitting surr sounds. Eventually, in full view, the entire area collapsed. Yi-chen's sword move had even shattered this piece of special spatial world. In the end, as the space shattered, the half-meter-long rock outside in the depression also burst apart, becoming swirling dust. And amidst the swirling dust and the tumult of the void, Zhou Yu and the other 7 were thrown out of the spatial turbulence, falling back into the depression they were in before being pulled into the special space. Once back in the depression, Zhou Yu couldn't help but look around, eager to see Yi-chan, who could shatter space with a single sword move, Yi-chan, who had executed that unforgettable strike. At that moment, Zhou Yu saw a young man with a small sparrow on his shoulder slowly walking out of the billowing dust. His sword had already been sheathed back into its scabbard. His aura had returned to that of the late Heavenly Saint stage. The young man was still smiling at her, looking at her younger brother, as if they were back to collecting blood moon stones. Instinctively, Zhou Yu called out, "Yi-chan!" Chapter 643-. The Ancestral Behest. Zhou Yu had never seen a boy younger than herself who was so powerful. Zhou Yu had never seen a late-stage Heavenly Saint teenager, about 17 or 18 years old, capable of slaughtering a 9 tribulations true god. At that moment, when she looked at Yi-chen again, the girl no longer felt like she was looking at the same reckless boy as before. She finally understood why Yi-chan had been wandering through the Blood Moon Forest as if nothing mattered. What recklessness! That was clearly the sign of true great strength. A total fearlessness of everything within the Blood Moon Forest. That's why he was so composed. When Zhou Yu looked at Yi-chen again, a hint of admiration even emerged in her beautiful eyes. "Yi-chen, finding the Blood Moon Stone earlier was your doing, wasn't it? It was not just some intuition, right?" Zhou Yu gently spoke to Yi-chen. Zhou Yu now understood that the so-called intuition was just an excuse Yi-chen made up. A youth who could defeat a 9 tribulations true god was certainly capable of finding the Blood Moon Stone that they couldn't see themselves. Upon hearing Zhou Yu's words, Yi-chen looked at Xiaojiu on his shoulder and smiled. "That wasn't my merit. It was all thanks to Xiaojiu." Xiaoju? Zhou Yu remembered the little sparrow on Yi Chen's shoulder that had transformed into a giant azure sparrow even more mystical than the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon. And a tremor of astonishment couldn't help but flicker through her eyes. Indeed, a remarkable youth, with such a miraculous sparrow as a companion. Seeing Zhou Yu's astonished gaze, Xiaojiu on Yi Chen's shoulder smiled softly and rubbed its small head against Yi Chen's neck. Xiaojiu found that after arriving in the Divine Kingdom, it was indeed much more interesting than at the Undersea Divine Palace. Now, being able to make the martial artists of the Divine Kingdom look up to her with such admiration and shock was quite a delightful feeling, giving Xiaojiu a slight sense of pride. Xiaojiu also knew that by accompanying Yi Chen, in the future she might not just impress and awe divine warriors like Zhou Yu from the Divine Kingdom. Perhaps, given the chance, she could awe and earn the admiration of divine kings and divine venerables of the Divine Kingdom. That would be even more interesting, Xiaojiu thought to herself. Zhou Yu, with the shyness of a young girl, was still able to converse normally with Yi Chen. But the other members of the Zhou family, when they looked at Yi Chen, appeared completely shaken, as if they were about to faint. Zhou Dun, Zhou Yu's little brother, looked at Yi Chen with eyes full of reverence akin to those reserved for a divine king, unreachable for him. Brother Yi Chen, you are simply too incredible. How did you cultivate to become so powerful? The 6 middle-aged members of the Zhou family also deeply bowed to Yi Chen, expressing their utmost respect. If it weren't for Yi Chen, they might have perished at the hands of the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon, becoming just another pile of bones in that desolate space. Brother Yi Chen, thank you for saving our lives. However, they were also puzzled. How could someone as powerful as Yi Chen be accompanying them and willingly help them collect the blood moon stones? Such a significant figure logically shouldn't care about small fries like them. Read new adventures at Novelbin.com. Brother Yi Chen, why are you so kind to us? Not only did you help us find blood moonstones, but you also helped us deal with the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon. Zhou Tianhao couldn't help but voice his confusion. Yes, Brother Yi Chen. Why have you been helping us all along? And even found so many blood moonstones for my sister? When Zhou Dun heard his father's words, he too wondered aloud. The young boy even thought, could it be that this Brother Yi Chen fancied his sister and thus lent a hand? My sister's beauty is among the top tier in Fallen Moon City. Many young men from the great powers there want to pursue my sister. It's not impossible for Brother Yi Chen to have taken a fancy to her. With this thought, Zhou Dun involuntarily glanced at his sister Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu felt both shy and annoyed under Zhou Dun's gaze, realizing the implication in her brother's eyes. When the girl looked at Yi Chen again, her face unconsciously blushed, and she even harbored a little thought in the bottom of her heart. Could it be that this powerful youth, Yi Chen, had truly taken a liking to her? That was the only reason that made sense for why he would help her. Hearing Zhou Tianhao's inquiry and seeing Zhou Yu and Zhou Dun's expressions, Yi Chen couldn't help but smile. He knew that if he didn't explain, the misunderstanding might deepen. These people of the Zhou family have a good moral character. It's also time to tell them about the matter of the Divine King predecessor. With that thought, Yi Chen didn't say much more. He extended his hand, and layers of the formidable aura of the icebound divine body burst forth from his palm. At the same time, Yi Chen smiled at Zhou Tianhao, Zhou Yu, and the others, saying, "You should recognize this aura, I believe." When the Zhou family witnessed the surging aura on Yi Chen's palm, which could freeze the air, exhibiting an incredibly powerful presence, they were almost jumping with shock. This is the icebound divine body," Zhou Tianhao exclaimed in disbelief. "Brother Yi Chen, how do you have the icebound divine body? This divine body can only be cultivated by the core offspring of our family." What shocked Zhou Tianhao even more was that the icebound divine body wielded by Yi Chen was evidently more powerful than the version passed down through their family legacy. And Zhou Yu's mind suddenly recalled a family legend. The legend said that the icebound divine body was left by their ancestor, a powerful lower god king. Initially, the ancestor only left the first volume, which contained the basics of the icebound divine body. After the ancestor advanced to Middle God King, he transmitted back to the family the second volume of the technique. Our ancestor also said that once he broke through to Upper God King or even Divine Venerable and restored the icebound divine body, he would pass it all back to our family. Unfortunately, after the ancestor disappeared, he never returned, and the icebound divine body only circulated within the Zhou family for the first 2 volumes. Now, seeing the icebound divine body in Yi Chen's hands, which clearly seems more powerful than the first 2 volumes, Zhou Yu immediately speculated. Could it be that Yi Chen is a descendant of our ancestor, and that's why he possesses the icebound divine body? Could it be that after tens of thousands of years, news of our ancestor has surfaced again? For the Zhou family, tens of thousands of years meant many generations had passed, but for an almighty God King like their ancestor, it was nothing. At this thought, Zhou Yu's jade hands began to tremble with excitement. If their ancestor, the powerful God King, returned, their Zhou family would no longer be a lower-tier force in Fallen Moon City. Then she, her brother, and the young ones in their family could go to practice in circulation of Heaven Divine City or even in a better Divine City. Even their entire family might be able to return to circulation of Heaven Divine City. Keep in mind that the most powerful in circulation of Heaven Divine City was merely a lower God King, and their ancestor was known to have broken through to Middle God King long ago. Now, after tens of thousands of years, they didn't know how powerful their ancestor had become. Yi Chen, are you really a descendant of our ancestor? Is our ancestor coming back? Zhou Yu asked excitedly. When the others from the Zhou family heard the word ancestor, they too were reminded of the ancestor who had left behind the icebound divine body, which was part of their family lore. This miraculous youth possessed the icebound divine body technique, which was even more powerful than the one passed down in their family, and had been helping them all along. It was very likely that indeed a descendant of their ancestor had returned. Ancestor! Could it be that our ancestor is still alive? Zhou Tianhao was on the verge of tears. Young brother Yi Chen, did our ancestors send you to find us? For many years, the Zhou family had been declining and suffered much oppression. They thought their ancestor had long since passed away, having not seen him for so many years. But now, they had encountered someone who carried the legacy of their ancestors' technique. If their ancestor returned, that would be wonderful. Then, he could help the entire Zhou family rise up again. Seeing the 8 members of the Zhou family so agitated, Yi Chen sighed inwardly. He knew how desperately the declining Zhou family longed for the return of a powerful ancestor. If I tell them that the icebound God King predecessor died at the hands of an Aishan God King, they might fall into despair. Well, then, let me avenge the predecessor icebound God King by dealing with an Aishan God King myself. Just to give the people of the Zhou family something to remember and hope for. Only with hope will they practice even harder with the eventual emergence of a new God King or even a divine venerable to uphold the entire family. By then, knowing the predecessor is gone, they will be able to accept it. Thinking this, Yi Chen smiled and said to the excited Zhou Tianhao, Zhou Yu, and the others, yes, although I'm not a true disciple of Zhou Liuxiu predecessor, I have received his great legacy and can be considered half a disciple. Zhou Liuxiu predecessor is currently in a hidden place practicing and is not able to return. He instructed me to hand over the complete icebound divine body to you and will also pass on a treasure he left in the divine kingdom. Predecessor asked me to tell you to practice diligently and make our family stronger. Sometimes, benevolent deception is better. When they heard their ancestor's name, Zhou Liuxiu, when they heard Yi Chen say he came to help them because of their ancestor, when they heard the aspirations of their ancestor conveyed by Yi Chen, the 8 members of the Zhou family cried out in excitement, Our ancestor is alive, truly alive. Zhou Liuxiu was their ancestor's name. If he wasn't the heir of their ancestor, how could he possibly know? We have failed our ancestor deeply. Ever since he left, our family has been in decline. But this generation has seen Yuer and Dunner, whose talents are no less than the younger generation of other God Kings. What we lack are resources for cultivation, the very resources we long to give them to practice. We do wish to become powerful, but we just haven't had the chance. Collecting blood moonstones desperately is all for letting Yuer study in the Divine Institute to cultivate, all so that the family may produce another powerful being to lead us to greater prosperity. Ancestor, we definitely will not let you down, Zhou Tianhao resolved in his heart. Armed with their ancestor's complete icebound divine body technique and the treasures he left, they would train the young generation of the family to make the entire family more prosperous. They needed such an opportunity. Now, their ancestor had brought them hope, and of course they had to cherish it. If they allowed their family to fall into decay as their previous family ancestors had done, they would indeed be the great sinners of their family. Boom! As Yi Chun watched their excitement, he smiled, waved his sleeve, and the divine cauldron, imprinted with the cultivation runes of the complete icebound divine body technique, obtained from the main hall of the icebound temple, landed in front of the 8 Zhou family members. Yi Chun had already memorized the full technique of the icebound divine body, and he possessed the even more precious undying divine body to cultivate. He decided to fulfill the trust of the icebound God King and leave this treasure for the Zhou family members. This divine cauldron contains the complete technique of the icebound divine body. With this technique, if you practice well, producing another God King is not out of reach. Later, you can assign someone to accompany me to retrieve the treasure that Zhou Liuxiu predecessor left behind. Use the treasure's resources to cultivate more powerful beings for our family, Yi Chun said to the Zhou family members directly. Chapter 644. Get Lost. When the 8 members of the Zhou family left the Blood Moon Forest with Yi Chun and headed towards their family residence in Fallen Moon City, joy radiated from their faces. Before coming to the Blood Moon Forest, they had worried about not being able to find enough Blood Moonstones to exchange for black divine coins, allowing Zhou to enter the circulation of Heaven Divine Institute for cultivation. Now, after harvesting all the Blood Moonstones beneath that strange hollow just before they left, not only had they returned with more Blood Moonstones than expected, but they had also obtained the complete icebound divine body technique that the family had longed for. Zhou would be able to cultivate at the circulation of Heaven Divine Institute. All of the Zhou clansmen now possessed a precious technique, allowing them to become increasingly powerful. Change. This trip to the Blood Moon Forest had completely changed the fate of the Zhou clansmen, and the source of all these changes was the miraculous youth beside them, Yi Chun. Whether it was the 6 middle-aged men including Zhou Tianhao, or the siblings Zhou Yu and Zhou Dun, they all regarded Yi Chun as the most precious guest, warmly inviting him to stay with the Zhou family for a couple of days. Yi Chun also wanted to see the rest of the Zhou family, descendants of the ancestor with the icebound divine body, besides these 8 people, so he agreed to their invitation. Seeing that Yi Chun agreed to stay with the family, the 8 from the Zhou family were, of course, overjoyed. They wanted to share the good news that the ancestor brought by Yi Chun with all their clansmen. With hearts filled with excitement, their steps towards Fallen Moon City lightened considerably. Once they left the Blood Moon Forest and were not subject to the no-fly zone anymore, the 8 of them took to the skies, flying directly towards Fallen Moon City on the opposite side of the Blood Moon Forest with Yi Chun. After flying for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Yi Chun saw the outline of a small city appearing ahead. This small city, compared to circulation of Heaven Divine City, was much smaller and could not be compared to the real grand divine cities of the Thousand Curtain Divine Nation. This was the current residence of the Zhou family, a subsidiary city of circulation of Heaven Divine City, Fallen Moon City. The 9 travelers continued flying until they were just outside the gates of Fallen Moon City before they stopped flying and descended. Young brother Yi Chun, our Zhou family lives in the western part of Fallen Moon City. It's just a tea-time walk away, Zhou Tianhao said with a smile to Yi Chun. It's also a good opportunity to show you around Fallen Moon City, he added, still smiling. The young lady Zhou also smiled brightly at Yi Chun. Although Fallen Moon City is small, it's been home to our clan for thousands of years, and it's quite nice. The young girl walked alongside Yi Chun, strolling down the streets of Fallen Moon City, introducing him to various sights around the city. Seeing the girl's buoyant demeanor, Yi Chun smiled too. Previously, Zhou Yu had always been worried about not being able to gather enough black divine coins to enter the circulation of Heaven Divine Institute, bearing a sorrow that belied her age. Now that Yi Chun had fully alleviated her worries, she had finally regained the vivacity appropriate for her age. Listening to Zhou Yu talk about Fallen Moon City, Yi Chun felt a connection. Fallen Moon City wasn't big, but for Zhou Yu, it was her hometown, to which she naturally felt an affinity. Just like Yi Chun felt towards his own hometown in the barbaric wilderness continent, Qingyang City. Qingyang City was also small, but for Yi Chun, it was where his clansmen and the fellow members of the Qin and by clans resided, making it incredibly warm for him, no matter its size. Seeing that Yi Chun was moved and paid serious attention to every plant and tree in Fallen Moon City, Zhou Yu became even more enthusiastic in telling him about the city. On the side, the 6 elders of the Zhou family, including Zhou Tianhao, watched Zhou Yu and Yi Chun walking side by side. Noticing Zhou Yu showing an unprecedented closeness to another youth, their faces were etched with light smiles. It's a pity that young brother Yi Chun is too impressive. Fallen Moon City simply cannot keep him. Otherwise, he might have been the perfect match for Yuer. Zhou Tianhao even harbored such a thought. It wasn't only Zhou Tianhao and the other elders who were moved. The young Zhou Dun, seeing his sister so lively for the first time, also knew that all of this was brought about by Yi Chun, whom he had just met. If only brother Yi Chun could become my brother-in-law, that would be wonderful, thought Zhou Dun to himself. As Yi Chun and Zhou Yu continued their stroll and sightseeing, and with Zhou Tianhao and the other 6 men, as well as the young Zhou Dun, entertaining their fanciful thoughts, the group finally saw a large courtyard ahead. Young brother Yi Chun, that ahead is our family estate. Although our family is not as glorious as during our ancestors' time, we still have over 100 people. In a moment, I will introduce you to them all, Zhou Tianhao said, chuckling as he saw the family gate was not far ahead. As the 9 people were walking towards the Zhou family's main gate, the gate suddenly creaked open from the inside, and a young man in white emerged. As he walked out, the young man in white chuckled and called out to Zhou Tianhao and Zhou Yu, who were returning to the clan. I heard early in the morning that Uncle Zhou and my dear sister you have gone into Blood Moon Forest. My dear sister you, that place is somewhat dangerous today. What would I do if something happened to you? Is my dear sister you still worried about going to circulation of Heaven Divine Institute for cultivation? I've said before, if my dear sister you is willing, I, Wei Teng, am ready to bear all the costs for you to go to circulation of Heaven Divine City. Following behind this young man in white were 4 to 5 middle-aged men, each at the realm of a 6th tribulation true god, and the young man in white was not weak either, also at the realm of a 4 tribulation true god. Seeing the young man in white addressing her as my dear sister you, at every turn made Zhou Yu frown tightly, as if afraid that Yi Chun would misunderstand. She quickly transmitted a message to Yi Chun. This is Wei Teng, the young master of the Wei family, the most powerful force in Fallen Moon City. He's really annoying, always pestering me. Zhou Tianhao's face flashed with anger upon seeing Wei Teng emerge from the Zhou family's main gate. After all, the Zhou family was also a mid-level powerful family in Fallen Moon City, and here was Wei Teng barging directly into their compound, now even walking out of the main gate as though he owned the place and talking to them, naturally stirring a surge of anger in Zhou Tianhao's heart. In the past, even though Wei Teng, relying on the Wei family's power, often lingered outside the Zhou family, he had never been as brazen as today to barge into their home. Today, his arrogance had reached such a level. Uncle Quan, how could you let someone into our Zhou family compound like this? Zhou Tianhao roared towards the inside of the gate. At this moment, hearing Zhou Tianhao's voice, quite a few Zhou clansmen ran out of the main gate, led by an old man who looked like a steward. This old man was clearly the Uncle Quan mentioned by Zhou Tianhao. The old man, seeing Zhou Tianhao return, breathed a sigh of relief, and upon seeing Wei Teng standing at the doorway, a flash of anger also appeared in his eyes. He said to Zhou Tianhao, clan leader, this Wei Teng insisted on barging into our residence, claiming he wanted to see young Miss Yu. We couldn't stop him. Upon hearing the old man's words, Zhou Tianhao's anger was directed at Wei Teng, and Zhou Yu also gave Wei Teng a cold look, saying, Wei Teng, My Zhou family does not welcome you. If there's a next time, we will not be polite. During the conversation, Zhou Yu whispered to Yi Chen, "Don't worry about this guy. Let's go inside." Zhou Yu took Yi Chen by the hand and started walking towards the gate. Wei Teng's brow furrowed upon hearing Zhou use cold words to him. The reason he dared to so presumptuously invade the Zhou family today was that his father, the foremost expert of the Wei family, had just achieved a breakthrough, breaking through to the Nine Tribulations true God. A Nine Tribulations true God was undoubtedly the top expert in Fallen Moon City. Under such circumstances, Wei Teng looked down on the Zhou family even more. The only thing he valued in the Zhou family was the beautiful and graceful Zhou Yu. Wei Teng hadn't expected Zhou Yu to be so blunt with him. When he saw Zhou Yu's hand in Yi Chen's, jealousy flashed in his eyes. He had never even touched Zhou Yu's hand. And yet, this late heaven saint youth managed to receive such closeness from her. How could this not fill Wei Teng with intense jealousy? Yuer? Who is this young man? Humph, my father has just advanced to a Nine Tribulations true God today. From now on, even in circulation of Heaven Divine City, he's considered a prominent figure. Yuer, if you continue to treat me this way, don't blame me for being unkind. As he spoke, Wei Teng stretched out his arm, blocking the path of Zhou Yu and Yi Chen at the entrance. The several Six Tribulations true God middle-aged men beside him also chuckled and blocked the doorway. When they heard Wei Teng's words, both Zhou Yu and Zhou Tianhao finally understood why Wei Teng was acting so arrogantly. It turned out his father had indeed broken through to a Nine Tribulations true God. If this were before, Zhou Tianhao might have been somewhat apprehensive and sought ways to deal with the Wei family. But now, seeing Yi Chen's furrowed brows, where would he be willing to swallow this indignity? Wei Teng, if you dare to offend Yi Chen, beware that even your father can't save your life.
Yi Chen.
Who is that? Wei Teng looked around, and finally, his gaze settled on Yi Chen, whom Zhou Yu was holding by the hand. Him, a late heaven saint youth? Explore new worlds at Novelbin. Calm. As he spoke, Wei Teng grabbed at Yi Chen. Yi Chen, however, coldly looked at the approaching hand and said indifferently, "Withdraw your claw, get out of the way quickly, or you can't blame me for being impolite." Chapter 645-. Visitors from the City Lord's Mansion. Yi Chen's indifferent words fell on Wei Teng's ears, turning Wei Teng's face instantly red with anger, his head almost dizzy with fury. He had never been so looked down upon by someone in the late stage of Tianshang, and especially in front of Zhou Yu, the girl he had always wanted to win over. Don't be polite? I would like to see how you're going to be impolite to me. Wei Teng's claw, reaching towards Yi Chen, not only didn't retract in the slightest but even shone with more brilliant divine power. The ferocious killing intent about to crush Yi Chen's arm in one move. Seeing Wei Teng's ferocious and menacing appearance, the 5-6 Tribulations true gods, whom Wei Teng's father had arranged to be by his side, also looked at Yi Chen with a cold sneer. Trying to show off in front of a woman? Wait till your arm breaks. You won't even be able to cry. They had followed Wei Teng and had seen many people who were dissatisfied with and had openly confronted Wei Teng's arrogance. Invariably, the end for those people was always very miserable. They knew that this young man would definitely meet the same fate. Wei Teng's subordinates sneered, and the Zhou family members who came out of the large courtyard upon hearing the commotion were terrified when they saw Wei Teng's dreadfully murderous claw aimed at Yi Chen and let out screams. At this moment, Wei Teng's claw had already grabbed onto Yi Chen's arm. Yi Chen looked coldly at Wei Teng. Without dodging or avoiding, he surged the immense power of his undying divine body into his arm. The undying divine body, below the level of divine sovereign, could be called the strongest divine body, with such formidable combat strength that even with Yi Chen having cultivated only the 3rd volume, relying solely on this divine body, it would be no problem to fight ordinary 7 or 8 Tribulations true gods. This Wei Teng was nothing more than an exceedingly ordinary 4 Tribulations true god. Thinking of crushing Yi Chen's arm? It was simply a dream. In the midst of countless gazes, some sneering, some shocked, some worried, Yi Chen didn't dodge at all. When Wei Teng's claw reached Yi Chen's arm, It was immediately struck by an immense force, smashing directly onto his claw. Instantly, Wei Tang let out an extremely miserable scream, his hands bloody and blurred from the impact as he flew backward more than a dozen yards and smashed into the ground, creating a large hole. Looking at Wei Tang's hands, one could see that both claws were shattered by the force of Yi Chen's counterattack, blood flowing everywhere. This scene made the cold smiles on the faces of Wei Tang's Six Tribulations True God subordinates freeze instantly. It also stopped the screaming Zhou family members in their tracks. What was happening? This late-stage Tianshang young man, without any movement, had shattered the Four Tribulations True God Wei Tang's hands and sent him flying backwards more than a dozen yards? If he had actually made a move, does that mean Wei Tang could have been killed on the spot? Where did this late-stage Tianshang young man come from? Your journey continues at novelbin.com. Could it be that his strength far surpassed that of the Four Tribulations True God Wei Tang? Everyone at the scene, regardless of which side they were on, was completely stunned. Hearing Wei Tang's exceedingly miserable scream and recalling the youth's words, "Scram now or I won't be polite," everyone knew that it wasn't just bragging on the youth's part. This young man truly had such great strength. In the crowd, the calmest were Zhou Yu and Zhou Tianhao and the other seven. But even they couldn't help showing a trace of surprise on their faces. They had already witnessed Yi Chen's strength in the Blood Moon Forest. Yi Chen was an imposing person who could even kill a Nine Tribulations True God beast, the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon. Of course, they knew Wei Tang was no match for Yi Chen. But they hadn't expected that without Yi Chen even moving, Wei Tang couldn't lay a finger on him. Not only that, but Wei Tang was shaken to the point of his claws being shattered and being sent tumbling away. Clearly, Yi Chen's combat strength was even more terrifying than they had imagined. Yi Chen's formidable sword technique aside, even his physical body is so strong. The force of the counterattack, enough to severely injure or even kill a Four Tribulations True God. Zhou Yu said as she looked at Yi Chen with another flash of shock in her beautiful eyes. The girl realized that the more she interacted with Yi Chen, the more she felt his strength. In the midst of countless shocked gazes, Wei Tang, with shattered hands and in so much pain that he was almost fainting, crazily shouted at his Six Tribulations True God subordinates. "It hurts! Damn it! Kill him for me! Kill that brat!" As Wei Tang roared, the 5 Six Tribulations True Gods began to converge towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen looked at these 5 Six Tribulations True Gods the same way he had looked at Wei Tang earlier. "If you dare to make a move, you'll end up just like him," Yi Chen said indifferently. Yi Chen's indifferent words fell on the ears of these 5 Six Tribulations True Gods, causing them to stop in their tracks in fear. Instantly, these 5 Six Tribulations True Gods had a premonition that if they really made a move, even if the 5 of them ganged up on Yi Chen, they would probably meet the same miserable end as Yi Chen said. In such a situation, where would these 5 Six Tribulations True Gods dare to make a move against Yi Chen? After retreating a few steps, they directly flew towards Wei Tang, who had been smashed into the ground. "Young master, discretion is the better part of valor. We should retreat. Retreat my ass. Kill him for me." Wei Tang continued to wail and bellow. The 5 Six Tribulations True Gods exchanged a glance, ignoring Wei Tang's wails and shouts. One of them picked up Wei Tang, and the group flew straight in the direction of the Wei family in Fallen Moon City. In an instant, several people had escaped without a trace. Patriarch Yuer, seeing Wei Tang and his people's pitiful end, as they beat a hasty retreat, many from the Zhou family surged out from the courtyards, all gathering around Zhou Tianhao and the 8 people including Zhou Yu. When the eyes of the Zhou family fell on Yi Chen standing beside Zhou Yu, shock took over their hearts. Where did the patriarch find this young man? He's so powerful. At this moment, Zhou Tianhao, with a trembling voice, addressed all the approaching Zhou family members. "My fellow clansmen, our Zhou family is saved, is saved. Yi Chen has come to us with a mission from our first-generation ancestor, Zhou Liuxiu. Our ancestor is still alive, and he has reached the realm of an upper god king." As Zhou Tianhao's words reached the ears of the numerous Zhou family members, They stood startled for a few moments before their expressions drastically changed. They instantly recalled the tales about the first-generation ancestor that had been passed down through their clan. When they heard that this ancestor was still alive, when they heard that this ancestor had become an upper god king, and that he sent such a miraculous young man to them, all the Zhou family members felt a surge of emotion. All of the Zhou family members knew that from now on, their Zhou family would no longer be the one that anyone in Fallen Moon City could bully. An upper god king. Even in the mighty circulation of Heaven Divine City, the strongest were only lower god kings. With an upper god king as their ancestor, there was no need for them to take any more of Wei Teng's insults. It wasn't just Fallen Moon City. Even within circulation of Heaven Divine City, as long as their ancestor returned, they could absolutely hold their heads high. Patriarch Wei Teng has escaped back to the Wei family. His father, Wei Mingtong, is a true god of the ninth tribulations. If he comes for revenge, what shall we do? As emotions settled, many Zhou family members looked at Yi Chan with worry in their hearts. No matter how powerful this young man was, he was ultimately just a late-stage Heaven Saint youth. Even if he could overpower Wei Teng, facing Wei Mingtong, the Wei family's top powerhouse and a true god of the ninth tribulations, he would surely be no match. Although their ancestor was an upper god king, he had not returned in person. The most powerful among their family was only Zhou Tianhao, a true god of the six tribulations. Facing Wei Mingtong, a true god of the ninth tribulations, he was not an opponent. Using the name of their ancestor might indeed intimidate Wei Mingtong, but if Wei Mingtong lost his senses and sought revenge for his son, then how could they withstand him? If only our ancestor could come back directly. Many members of the Zhou family thought to themselves. At this time, the Zhou family members heard Zhou Tianhao's hearty laughter. Don't worry, Brother Yi Chan is an absolute genius who can even deal with a true god of the ninth tribulations. Wei Mingtong is no match for him. Zhou Tianhao had seen Wei Mingtong before, and he knew that even if Wei Mingtong had broken through to a true god of the ninth tribulations, he would definitely not be a match for the blood-winged eight-clawed dragon, let alone a match for Yi Chan. Hearing Zhou Tianhao's words, the Zhou family members looked at Yi Chan with disbelief. How could this young man manage to deal with a true god of the ninth tribulations? Impossible. Then, Zhou Yu spoke to the Zhou family members. Yi Chen's strength is unmatched in Fallen Moon City. While the Zhou family was abuzz with excitement over Zhou Tianhao and Zhou Yu's words about Yi Chan, Wei Teng, under the escort of 5-6 tribulation true gods, also flew back to the Wei family. Before he arrived at the Wei family, Wei Teng's wretched screams had already startled many of the Wei family members, causing them to rush out to meet him. When they saw Wei Teng's hands, broken and bloody beyond recognition, the members of the Wei family nearly popped their eyeballs out in shock. Their Wei family was the leading clan of Fallen Moon City. How could their young master end up in such a sorry state? Dad, come out quickly. You have to stand up for me. Take revenge for me. Wei Teng couldn't care less about the stares of his clan members as he shouted loudly toward the Wei family mansion. At this time, the Wei family's #1 powerhouse, the Nine Tribulations' true god Wei Mingtong, was sitting in an elegant room accompanied by an elderly man dressed in gray. Looking at this gray-clad elder, it was clear that he was a lower god king level martial artist. Just then, the elderly man shook his head at Wei Mingtong. Wei family head, though you've broken through to a true god of the ninth tribulations, your combat power is far from meeting our city lord's requirements. You're not qualified to assist our city lord in the Battle of Divine City. Upon hearing this, a disappointed and resentful expression crept onto Wei Mingtong's face. Vice City Lord Wang, although I'm only a true god of the ninth tribulations, my 2 cultivation techniques are extremely powerful. I can serve our city lord well. The old man did not pay him further attention, smiling and shaking his head instead. I've already witnessed your cultivation techniques. Never mind, I have said what I came to say, and this trip to Fallen Moon City is now in vain. Farewell. While Wei Mingtong was still arguing, he heard his son Wei Teng's screams. Wei Mingtong's complexion changed. He offered an apologetic salute to the gray-clad elder, and hurriedly flew outside. The gray-clad elder glanced outside. Even from his room, he could see Wei Tang's condition. Seeing Wei Tang's mangled wrists, the elder's eyes narrowed in focus. Isn't this Wei family supposed to be the top clan of Fallen Moon City? How has their young master ended up in such a wretched state? Could it be he's provoked a powerhouse from circulation of Heaven Divine City? Let's take a look. Without moving from his place, the gray-clad elder disappeared from the elegant room in an instant and appeared in the void outside the next moment. Chapter 646 Battle against the 9 Tribulations True God. Outside the Wei family estate. When Wei Mingtong saw Wei Teng's hands had shattered into nothingness, leaving only bloodied and indistinct wrists, and heard it was a young man invited by the Zhou family who had inflicted such damage, he was furious. Recently, he had been busy trying to break through the 9th heavenly tribulation to become a 9 Tribulations True God, and had no time to attend to the family affairs. However, he was aware that his son had his sights set on Zhou Yu, the girl from the Zhou family. In Wei Mingtong's eyes, it was a trivial matter for his son to take down Zhou Yu. He didn't pay much attention to it, just allowing Wei Tang to do as he pleased, confident he would have his back. What Wei Mingtong didn't expect was that merely half a day after Wei Teng left, he returned in such a wounded state. Upon hearing that it was a late-stage heavenly saint young man who had injured his son, Wei Mingtong's rage was even more explosive. A late-stage heavenly saint capable of injuring a 4 Tribulations True God, and even scaring several 6 Tribulations True Gods into inaction. Wei Mingtong knew that this youth must be an absolute genius. And what Wei Mingtong hated the most was geniuses. He had just been rejected by the Vice City Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City from participating in the upcoming Divine City battle against another Divine City, precisely because the Vice City Lord deemed him not enough of a genius, thinking that although he had stepped into the 9 Tribulations True God realm, his combat power still fell short. At that moment, seeing the Vice City Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City hovering in the void watching the commotion at his side, an idea suddenly formed in Wei Mingtong's mind. That was to completely annihilate the genius who injured his son, proving his might to the Vice City Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City. In Wei Mingtong's eyes, no matter how formidable the late-stage heavenly saint youth was, he couldn't possibly win against a 9 Tribulations True God like himself. After all, in his knowledge, a late-stage heavenly saint fighting a 9 Tribulations True God was an impossibility. He had never seen anyone in circulation of Heaven Divine City accomplish such a feat. Let's go. I want to see what's so extraordinary about this youth who dared to provoke a member of my Wei family. A gleam flashed in Wei Mingtong's eyes as he stepped into the void. He looked back at Wei Teng, who was still groaning, frowned and said, "Teng, I will find spiritual medicine to heal your severed hand. Stop whimpering. Now follow me to the Zhou family and identify the one who injured you." Wei Teng still harbored some fear of Wei Mingtong. Hearing his words, he quickly ceased his painful groans and flew beside Wei Mingtong. At this moment, Wei Mingtong turned toward the gray-clothed elder in the void and smiled while clasping his hands in greeting. "Vice City Lord Wang, the divine technique that I practiced earlier can only truly unleash its power in a great battle. Please accompany me and allow me to demonstrate the full force of this technique for you to see." Hearing Wei Mingtong's words, the gray-clothed elder smiled ambiguously and replied, "Indeed, I am quite interested to see this." However, what the gray-clothed elder didn't explicitly state was that his real interest lay in the youth who had injured Wei Teng. After all, a late-stage heavenly saint who had injured a 4 Tribulations True God and even frightened off 6 Tribulations True Gods was not something seen in circulation of Heaven Divine City. Let's go have a look. That youth dared to provoke the Wei family. I wonder if he's overly bold or genuinely unafraid of a 9 Tribulations True God like Wei Mingtong. If a late-stage heavenly saint isn't afraid and dares to confront even a powerful 9 Tribulations True God like Wei Mingtong, that would be miraculous. Perhaps he possesses the exceptional talent of the top geniuses from the Grand Divine Kingdom cities. If that's the case, maybe he could meet the City Lord's requirements and be the one we're looking for. As these thoughts flashed through the gray-clothed elder's mind, Wei Mingtong, accompanied by the Wei family warriors, charged towards the Zhou family with murderous intent. The gray-clothed elder chuckled and shook his head before his figure flickered and disappeared instantly, reappearing in the void above the Zhou family. The people of the Zhou family were still outside the courtyard, engaged in conversation, and had not entered when they saw the lower-ranked god king in gray clothes flying into the space above their residence. Feeling the formidable aura emanating from the gray-clothed elder, the Zhou family's expressions changed drastically. A lower-ranked god king? Could he be the Wei family's reinforcement? No, it's impossible. The Wei family couldn't possibly invite a lower-ranked god king to help. At this moment, Yi Chun also noticed the gray-clothed elder, narrowing his eyes and clenching his hand. His current combat power was not afraid of 9 tribulations true gods from a small city, but facing 9 tribulations true gods cultivated by divine venerables with varied and formidable strengths, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. Against a lower-ranked god king, defeat was certain, unless Yi Chun was willing to let his crimson fire flying sword, which had reached the level of a supreme heaven-reaching divine artifact, self-destruct. Perhaps then he might be able to slay the lower-ranked god king. But in that case, Yi Chun would undoubtedly be severely injured as well. Just as Yi Chun was contemplating his strategy and Xiao Jiu was watching the gray-clothed elder in the sky with vigilant eyes, the elder seemed to sense their wary and fearful glances and spoke with a light laugh. I am Wang Chong, the Vice City Lord from Circulation of Heaven Divine City. I have no connection with the Wei family. Merely heard that it was lively here and came to have a look. You need not concern yourselves with me. The Vice City Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City? At the mention of his identity by the gray-clothed elder, the Zhou family members were shocked. Coming from an affiliate city like Fallen Moon City, it was rare for them to encounter such an important figure. However, hearing that the Vice City Lord wasn't there to deal with them, the Zhou family's hearts settled. Yi Chun, too, relaxed his clenched fist. But inwardly, Yi Chun couldn't help but wryly ridicule himself. The Divine Kingdom is indeed full of powerful individuals. A lower-ranked god king could pose a threat to me. It seems I must boost my strength even further. Yi Chun didn't wish to continue venturing through the Divine Kingdom with such worries. Calculating the time, in 2 to 3 months, he would be able to enter the cycle of life's wheel and benefit from the accelerated flow of time for his cultivation. Yi Chun had already made up his mind that when he emerged, he must strive to break through to the true God realm. Amidst Yi Chun's contemplation, in the distant sky, dozens of martial artists were rapidly advancing toward the Zhou family, exuding a murderous aura. Leading these martial artists was none other than Wei Mingtong of the Wei family. At this point, the Zhou family finally understood what Vice City Lord Wang had meant by coming to watch the excitement. It turned out that the Wei family really had come knocking on their door. Many Zhou family members looked worriedly at Yi Chun. Although Zhou Tianhao and Zhou Yu had said that Yi Chun could handle Wei Mingtong with no problem, the thought of someone at the Saint King stage dealing with a 9 tribulations true god was unimaginable for them in Fallen Moon City. Are you the kid who hurt my son? Humph. A mere Saint King stage dares to be so presumptuous in Fallen Moon City. Truly seeking death. In the sky, Wei Mingtong's voice boomed crazily toward the Zhou family's territory, and the next moment, he led the Wei family warriors, flying into the void above the Zhou family. Although the Zhou family was just a minor clan in Fallen Moon City, the Wei family was the #1 clan there. Wei Mingtong, flying through the sky with such murderous intent and roaring with rage, naturally drew the attention of many of Fallen Moon City's warriors, who flew into the sky to look toward the Zhou family's land from afar. The Zhou family dares to provoke the Wei family? This time, the Zhou family has really brought disaster upon themselves. The warriors in the void were buzzing with discussions. Outside the Zhou family courtyard, on the ground, Yi Chun watched the Wei family warriors approaching with murderous intent. His eyes settled on the leading Wei Mingtong. After sensing Wei Mingtong's aura, Yi Chun shook his head. This Wei Mingtong was nothing more than an ordinary 9 tribulations true god from a very small affiliated city in the divine kingdom of Wanmu Mountain. He probably hadn't even cultivated a single heaven-reaching divine art. His aura wasn't even comparable to the five tribulations true god ancient beast that Yi Chun had battled in the undersea divine palace, which was fostered by a divine venerable. Yi Chun, who had slain a five tribulations true god ancient beast, why would he fear this man? If it had been someone like Vice City Lord Wang, a lower-ranked divine king attacking, Yi Chun would have treated it seriously, but this Wei Mingtong, Yi Chun knew he was nothing special from the moment he injured Wei Teng. Boy, are you struck dumb? After Wei Mingtong flew above the Zhou family, his body bristling with killing intent, he thought that Yi Chun was afraid of him since he said nothing. Wei Mingtong first gave a fist salute towards the gray-robed elder watching the commotion in the void. Vice City Lord Wang, you won't intervene in the disputes of Fallen Moon City, right? The gray-robed elder smiled faintly. Why should I involve myself in your disputes? I'm just here to watch the show. Hearing the gray-robed elder's words, Wei Mingtong felt greatly assured. When he looked at the Zhou family members again, he shouted, "You Zhou family have quite the nerve. I used to overlook your well-behaved demeanor, but now that you've injured my son, I cannot let you off." Wei Mingtong's words turned many Zhou family members pale. At that moment, the young girl Zhou you couldn't hold back and retorted, "Can't let us off? You're not even as formidable as Yi Chun. So what are you bragging about? Not as formidable as Yi Chun?" Wei Mingtong's eyes turned to Yi Chun. "Is this the kid you brought back who injured my son? Humph. I want to see just how formidable he is." Boom! Instantly, Wei Mingtong's aura surged towards the heavens. His huge hand reached toward the ground, and a towering, gigantic hand that was hundreds of feet long viciously reached out for Yi Chun. This sky-reaching giant hand hadn't even neared Yi Chun when the void started to violently burst. It even caused the earth to churn. A nine tribulations true god indeed lived up to the name, as the display of divine might of just this one move was astoundingly formidable. And the actual sky-reaching giant hand aiming for Yi Chun, forming an even more terrifying killing move within, shocked everyone to the extreme. So much so that just before it was about to grasp Yi Chun, the hand condensed a fiercely powerful black killing force storm within. Seeing Wei Mingtong's move, many Zhou family members cried out in shock. For many of them, it was the first time witnessing a nine tribulations true god in action. The killing force was so chilling that many even felt a slight touch of it could turn them into ashes. Can this powerful young man the patriarch spoke of withstand the assault of a nine tribulations true god like Wei Mingtong? Amidst their chilling fright, many Zhou family members turned their eyes to Yi Chun, who was being targeted by the sky-reaching giant hand. That's when they saw Yi Chun breathe out towards the void. His breath, sharp like a sword, struck directly at the sky-reaching giant hand. The sky-reaching giant hand, which had seemed terrifying to the extreme to the Zhou family members, exploded and shattered under Yi Chun's breath, vanishing without a trace. And Yi Chun stood beneath where the sky-reaching giant hand had been, without even a wrinkle in his clothing. One breath to break a nine tribulations true god's killing move. The Zhou family members were so astonished. Their eyes nearly popped out. Discover exclusive content at novelbin.com. And that gray-robed lower-rank divine king watching the excitement in the void also showed a sudden surprise, his body instantly standing erect. At that moment, Yi Chun indifferently said to Wei Mingtong, "If you want to deal with me, then use your real killing moves. These tricks of yours are far from enough." Chapter 647. The True Killing Move. Witnessing Yi Chun challenge Wei Mingtong, a nine tribulations true god, this time, no one harbored the slightest concern about Yi Chun. This time, everyone recognized that Yi Chun truly possessed the strength to battle a nine tribulations true god. At this moment, even Wei Mingtong's heart skipped a beat. He had not anticipated that this youth in the late Heavenly Saint stage could shatter one of his killer moves with just a single breath. However, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he certainly wouldn't show weakness. Wei Mingtong looked directly at Yi Chun and sneered, "It seems you do have some ability, but the move before used less than 10% of my fighting power. Since you're courting death, then try my true divine technique, Celestial Fall Million Stone Fist." As Wei Mingtong's words fell, His entire battle aura was fully unleashed. The tremendous aura even blowing the Zhou clansmen not far from Yichun backward in a tumble. After the Zhou clansmen, with the aid of true gods like Zhou Tianhao and Zhou Yu, finally regained their footing with shocked expressions, everyone saw a gigantic golden fist coming straight down from the void toward Yichun on the ground. What was more terrifying was that this golden fist, while hurtling down at breakneck speed, split into two, then four into eight into countless. In the end, within 100 yards around Yichun, the entire area was filled with unceasingly pounding golden fists. Moreover, all the golden fists were not simply dispersed attacks. Once they multiplied into infinity, they formed an incredibly sinister killing formation, a formation that greatly amplified the combat power of each golden fist. Each fist was more deadly than the previous gigantic golden fist that fell from the void. With countless fists combined, they were almost bursting the very void and tearing open a chasm thousands of yards wide on the ground. And at the center of the chasm was Yichun, facing the onslaught of countless golden fists. Celestial Fall Million Stone Fist? At this moment, Yichun was floating above the chasm, looking at the countless golden fists forming the killing formation, with a gaze unstirred by panic and calm as ever. Indeed, it is a fine divine technique, but it is still far from enough. In the midst of speaking, Yichun suddenly drew the purple lightning divine sword from his hand. Enjoy more content from novelbin.com. Swish. Instantly, with a shimmer of the sword light, countless dazzling sword beams bombarded the endless golden fists descending from the sky. In just a moment, with thunderous roars of true qi exploding, the sound reverberated around the entire perimeter of the Zhou family compound. In the end, all onlookers could see that the countless dreadful golden fists had all been intercepted and shattered by Yichun's sword light. Yichun had once again directly broken through Wei Mingtong's killer move. This time, even the myriad of martial artists watching from afar in the void above Fallen Moon City sucked in a breath of cold air. Previously, Wei Mingtong had argued that he only used 10% of his fighting power in the first attack, so Yichun breaking it was nothing remarkable. But with this move, everyone could see that Wei Mingtong had used his full strength. Yet even with full strength, he still could not overcome Yichun. Seeing how effortlessly Yichun countered the moves, everyone realized that Yichun, this youth in the late Heavenly Saint stage, was evidently far more fearsome than the 9 tribulations true god, Wei Mingtong. How many percent was that? Holding the purple lightning divine sword with its tip angled downwards, Yichun looked towards Wei Mingtong in the void and smiled lightly. If you haven't used your full strength yet, then you won't have another chance. Boom! Yichun instantly flicked the purple lightning divine sword, unleashing its ultimate move Purple Lightning directly at Wei Mingtong in the void. Yichun certainly wouldn't keep passively countering. This Wei Mingtong had come to provoke him, and after testing 2 of his moves, Yichun no longer had the patience to tarry with him. Once Yichun's purple lightning was released, instantly, a heaven-shaking sword rainbow, like a peerless surge of purple lightning, shot forth. This move made the distant Zhou Yu, who was watching the battle, light up with admiration once more as she witnessed Yichun's unstoppable and terrifying sword move. This strike had even left the lower god king, Vice City Lord Wang, who was watching from the void, internally screaming in shock, exclaiming in disbelief. This is almost the power of a heavenly divine weapon. It also instilled such fear in the Wei family warriors and Wei Ting up in the void that they wanted to flee. And Wei Mingtong, facing this attack, his expression changed drastically. He clearly felt that he couldn't withstand this move, but unable to resist, the move bore down on him directly. He had to face it whether he liked it or not. Wei Mingtong, his complexion turning pale, forcefully spat out a mouthful of essence blood, which infused into his body, causing it to grow an extra 2 to 3 meters tall in an instant. At the same time, Wei Mingtong once again threw out a punch at the purple lightning sword move released by Yichun. This time as though a golden waterfall spanning 1,000 yards poured down from the sky at an alarming speed. Wei Mingtong had already unleashed his strongest move, using a forbidden technique to bring it forth. This was the second of the two formidable skills Wei Mingtong had mentioned to Vice City Lord Wang, his Celestial Fall Million Stone Fist being the first. Now came the Nine Heavens Divine Waterfall. In an instant, Yi Chen's purple lightning sword skill clashed with the golden waterfall in the sky. However, everyone saw that even though there was only one strike from Yi Chen's purple lightning sword skill, the sword energy fluctuations in the void alone were enough to disperse the entire golden waterfall, and the main attack didn't lose any of its power as it directly bombarded Wei Mingtong. With a single sword strike, Wei Mingtong was blasted tens of thousands of feet away and finally crashed onto a building in Fallen Moon City, collapsing the structure and even creating a giant crater with a radius of tens of thousands of feet on the ground. Even though Wei Mingtong used a forbidden technique, he was still no match for Yi Chen and was directly knocked unconscious. This was still without Yi Chen truly using his killing power. Otherwise, Wei Mingtong might have been directly killed by this move. Boom! 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 Upon seeing Wei Mingtong being blasted tens of thousands of feet away and falling unconscious on the ground covered in blood, the Wei family members in the void had all turned deathly pale. They now knew that even their strongest reliance was no match for the young man before them. At this point, Wei Tang, the source of all this trouble, had no thought of seeking revenge against Yi Chen. He only wished to leave immediately, to be as far away from the fearsome Yi Chen as possible. But the look in Yi Chen's eyes made him too afraid to move an inch. You, don't kill me. In the end, Wei Tang was so frightened that he knelt down in the void to Yi Chen. Kill you? Yi Chen looked at Wei Tang, then at all the Wei family warriors. I have no interest in killing you, but if you dare to trouble the Zhou family again, then there will only be a dead end waiting for you. Finally, Yi Chen raised his voice toward the group of Wei family members. Scram! Instantly, the Wei family members fled like startled rabbits, disappearing without a trace. Witnessing this scene, the warriors of Fallen Moon City watching from the void all knew that from then on, in Fallen Moon City, probably no one, no force, would dare to provoke the Zhou family. Hearing Yi Chen's words, the Zhou clansmen were overwhelmed with emotion. They knew that this youth, who had a connection with their first-generation ancestor, had helped them to deter everyone. And from now on, the Zhou family would truly stand tall in Fallen Moon City. At that moment, Vice City Lord Wang, who was a lower god king lurking in the void, suddenly moved and shot out towards Yi Chen. At the same time, Vice City Lord Wang fiercely clawed out, unleashing a killing move that was 100 times more powerful than Wei Mingtong's earlier attack, directly hurtling towards Yi Chen. Seeing this spectacle, the Zhou family members all gasped in shock. This Vice City Lord Wang, who had previously said he would only watch and not intervene, had actually launched an attack on Yi Chen. Vice City Lord Wang's attack was incredibly fast. The Zhou family members had neither the time nor the ability to help Yi Chen. Just as Vice City Lord Wang's move was about to hit Yi Chen, amidst the screams of the Zhou clansmen and countless warriors in the void who had thought the battle over and were preparing to leave, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly turned cold. Boom! From the Sword Palace acupoint on Yi Chen's forehead, his life-bound flying sword, Crimson Fire, refined by Elder Ku due to the level of a superior heavenly-grade divine weapon, flew out directly. The first of the 9 swords of annihilation was released with a bang. This single sword peeled up the earth and created a sword energy storm in the void, more terrifying than anything before, dozens of times more powerful than Yi Chen's previous purple lightning ultimate sword skill. Eventually, the storm met Vice City Lord Wang's attack head-on, driving him dozens of feet back before his true lower god king power was unleashed, and he steadied himself from retreating further. Seeing this, young Lady Zhou you couldn't help but nearly scream in shock. She finally understood that Yi Chen had a powerful move, even stronger than the sword skills he used to slay the Bloodwing October Claw Dragon and defeat Wei Mingtong. However, amidst numerous shocked gazes, Yi Chen's flying sword hovered in the void, as he directly faced Vice City Lord Wang. Lower God King, do you really wish to battle me? Chapter 648- Invitation to the Battle of Divine City. Xiaozhou also flew down from Yi Chen's shoulder at this moment, transforming into a monolithic, 1,000-foot-long azure giant bird. and directly gazed at Vice City Lord Wang. "Lower God King, if you fight against Yi Chun, although Yi Chun will be seriously injured, you will definitely suffer severe injuries and even death." Xiaozhou spoke coldly to Vice City Lord Wang. Faced with the intervention of Vice City Lord Wang, a lower God King, although she knew she was no match for those of this realm, Xiaozhou still stood shoulder to shoulder with Yi Chun. If it weren't for the fact that Xiaozhou had noticed that although the attack of Vice City Lord Wang was terrifying, the technique was still at the true god level, perhaps Xiaozhou would not have spoken to Vice City Lord Wang so coldly, and would have launched her mightiest attack alongside Yi Chun against this lower god king. Seeing Yi Chun standing in the void with his flying sword hovering in front, and seeing that the little bird who had always been watching the scene on Yi Chun's shoulder had now turned into a monolithic azure bird. All those watching the battle, members of the Zhou family, martial artists from Fallen Moon City in the void, finally realized that Yi Chun had not yet revealed his full killing force, and even now he still had room to spare. If Vice City Lord Wang, this lower god king, decided to really battle with Yi Chun would still be capable of resisting. Upon witnessing this scene, Zhou Tianhao felt intense fluctuations in his heart. He finally understood why his first ancestor had asked for Yi Chun, this youth, to come to their Zhou family. Yi Chun seemed to be limitless, always proving to be stronger than he previously showed. Seeing this scene, Zhou Yu, who was greatly shaken, instantly flew to Yi Chun's side and stood next to him as they both looked at Vice City Lord Wang. Even though Zhou Yu knew that she could not be of any help to Yi Chun in a confrontation of this level, she couldn't help but want to stand with Yi Chun. In the end, even all the members of the Zhou family stood behind Yi Chun, glaring at Vice City Lord Wang. They were unwilling to let this youth, who had helped the Zhou family, face the oppression of a lower god king alone. At this moment, Vice City Lord Wang, who was blasted dozens of feet backwards by Yi Chun's strike, and who had even released the power of a lower god king, suddenly withdrew his fighting strength. His gaze was unprecedentedly clear as he looked at Yi Chun. "Young man, you are called Yi Chun, right? I have no intention of being your enemy. I only acted before to see that you had not yet fully unleashed your fighting strength, hence my probing attack." But Yi Chun frowned as he looked at Vice City Lord Wang. Such a test, causing misunderstandings, is not good. Yi Chun had sensed that Vice City Lord Wang had not used his real killing power, and he could still withstand it, which is why he hadn't allowed his flying sword to self-destruct and carry out the mutually destructive act that could seriously injure or even kill a lower god king. Nevertheless, Yi Chun still expressed his dissatisfaction. "Do not blame me, fellow Yi Chun," the Vice City Lord Wang in gray garments said with a gentle smile, his bright eyes directed at Yi Chun. "This act of mine was a last resort because I am looking for an assistant for our Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City, the strongest assistant with true god-level combat power." The Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City? The strongest assistant with true god-level combat power? Vice City Lord Wang's words made Yi Chun startle. At that moment, Vice City Lord Wang continued to speak to Yi Chun. "I don't know if you have heard of Divine City Battle, but the person I am looking for is to represent Circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Divine City Battle." A short while later, Vice City Lord Wang, with a satisfied smile, drifted away through the void. And Yi Chun stood there in the void, stroking his chin, deep in thought. From his conversation with Vice City Lord Wang, he finally understood why Vice City Lord Wang had probed him, and what exactly this Divine City Battle was about. Turns out, the Divine City Battle involved a major event related to a peculiar ancient area of the Divine Kingdom's southern territory called Nine Suns Ancient Land. The Nine Suns Ancient Land is located on a part of the stellar mainland within the Divine Kingdom's southern territory and spans an even larger area than the land where Circulation of Heaven Divine City is situated. Legend has it that the Nine Suns Ancient Land was left by a heavenly divine venerable known as the Nine Suns Venerable. What's more mysterious is that this ancient land has always been sealed, only opening every 1,000 years at a specific time. Inside this ancient land, there are countless spiritual herbs and elixirs, as well as many cave dwellings and ancient relics left by the Nine Suns Venerable and his disciples. Those who enter the Nine Suns Ancient Land even have the chance to find the mysterious heavenly divine elixir that can break through from divine king to divine venerable, and mysterious heavenly divine artifacts used by divine venerable realm powerhouses. And there are innumerable divine pills and marvelous medicines that can help true God realm beings to face the heavenly tribulation. Only those below the divine venerable realm could enter when the Nine Suns ancient land was opened, for the mid-level divine venerables who wanted to enter would be repelled directly. Heavenly divine venerables and immortal divine venerables of the divine venerable realm, as well as the Nine Suns venerable who left behind this ancient land, were of the same level or even more formidable than the Nine Suns venerable. Read the latest on novel.com. The treasures left in the ancient land by the Nine Suns venerable were intended specifically for those at the true God and divine king levels. These treasures were utterly useless to beings of the heavenly divine venerable and immortal divine venerable level. Even if they had the power to break the prohibition and enter the Nine Suns ancient land, they wouldn't do so. Instead, they preferred to use this realm as a training ground for their juniors. Thus, the Nine Suns ancient land became an exclusive and mysterious realm for true gods and divine kings. Of course, every time it was opened, it would trigger countless scrambles for entry. It attracted not only true gods and divine kings from the divine kingdom's southern territory, but those from other realms of the divine kingdom rushed to the Nine Suns ancient land as well. Under such circumstances, the powerful forces of the divine kingdom in the southern territory, like the Southern Territory Royal Mansion, could not possibly allow all true gods and divine kings to enter the Nine Suns ancient land. Eventually, after dividing the interests, the Southern Territory Royal Mansion allotted just 10 slots for martial artists at the Divine King realm to enter the Nine Suns ancient land. At the same time, each major divine city was granted 10 slots for martial artists below the Divine King realm to enter. Of course, there were countless smaller divine cities in the Southern Territory, and cities like Circulation of Heaven Divine City did not have the opportunity to directly secure 10 slots. They had to compete with 17 other cities of the same level to vie for those 10 slots through what was known as the Battle of the Divine Cities. The Battle of the Divine Cities involved 18 smaller divine cities, each sending 3 martial artists below the Divine King realm to fight. The city that emerged victorious from among the 18 would be entitled to the 10 slots for entering the Nine Suns ancient land. Although the lords of each minor divine city, like the Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City, were at the Divine King realm, they had no chance to obtain slots for entering the Nine Suns ancient land. However, of course, every divine city wanted those 10 slots for martial artists below the Divine King realm to enter the Nine Suns ancient land. After all, the lords of these divine cities had descendants and heirs to fight for these coveted slots. Even if the martial artists from the minor divine cities could hardly compete with those from the major divine cities, let alone the 10 divine kings sent by the Southern Territory, obtaining even a minor advantage in the Nine Suns ancient land would be immensely beneficial. Moreover, this battle of the divine cities would also showcase the foundation and strength of the minor divine cities, and could even attract attention from some powerful forces within the divine kingdom, so naturally every small divine city would fight with all their might. Over the years, Circulation of Heaven Divine City had participated in hundreds of battles of the divine cities and had only occasionally managed to defeat the other 17 and secure 10 slots. In the last 10 instances, they had not succeeded even once. This made the Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City lose face. The current Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City, who had taken office only in the past few centuries, definitely did not want this humiliation to continue. He certainly wanted to snatch those 10 slots for the Nine Suns ancient land in the Battle of the Divine Cities. In such a situation, Circulation of Heaven Divine City began to seek out martial artists with formidable strength below the God King realm. It was in these circumstances that Vice City Lord Wang began to assess various powerful true gods to find the 3 individuals who could assist the Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Battle of the Divine Cities. Previously, Wei Mingtong obviously failed to catch Vice City Lord Wang's eye, but Yi Chen's miraculous performance truly dazzled him. Vice City Lord Wang had observed the battles among martial artists in the minor divine cities during the Battle of the Divine Cities. Vice City Lord Wang felt that if Yi Chen participated in the Battle of the Divine Cities, there was a high probability he could help Circulation of Heaven Divine City win a crucial battle. Therefore, Vice City Lord Wang extended an earnest invitation to Yi Chun. As for the Battle of the Divine Cities, where each minor divine city sent 3 people to fight for 10 slots, Yi Chun appeared indifferent. However, the Nine Suns' ancient land, which possessed all sorts of strange items and even had things that could enable true gods and divine kings to break through, had somewhat moved Yi Chun. Yi Chun was even more interested in witnessing the 10 divine king powerhouses sent by the Southern Territory, as well as the powerful true gods from the various major divine cities of the Southern Territory. When he heard that the Battle of the Divine Cities would take place in 3 months, and that the Nine Suns' ancient land would open 1 month after the battle's conclusion, providing 1 month of exploration time, Yi Chun calculated that there was indeed enough time to participate in the exploration of the Nine Suns' ancient land. In the end, he agreed to go to Circulation of Heaven Divine City to see about the Battle of the Divine Cities. Chapter 649-Defiance. 3 days later, early in the morning, Yi Chun kept his promise and left the Zhou family of Fallen Moon City to head for the City Lord's mansion of the Circulation of Heaven Divine City. Yi Chun planned to sort out the issue of the Divine City War quota and then set off to open the treasure trove left by the Ice-Sealed Divine King in another part of the Star Continent and conclude his repayment to the descendants of the Ice-Sealed Divine King. Only after that would he truly face the Divine City War in just over 2 months. But before agreeing to be one of the 3 candidates for the Divine City War, Yi Chun wanted to assess the other 2 companions who would take part in the battle with him. After all, the Divine City War between the smaller divine cities was a 3-person appearance where the victory was determined by a best-of-3 system. If the other 2 were too weak and there was no certainty they could help the Circulation of Heaven Divine City achieve ultimate victory, and secure those 10 spots to enter the Nine Suns' ancient land, then Yi Chun saw no need to involve himself in this chaos and waste his time. By the time Yi Chun arrived at the Assembly Square for the Circulation of Heaven Divine City war candidates mentioned by Vice City Lord Wang, over a dozen people had already gathered. These dozen or so people were all young men and women, with only 3 being at the 8th tier of True God level, while the rest were at the 9th tier of True God level. Vice City Lord Wang was also within this 1,000-zhang radius of the huge square. When Vice City Lord Wang saw the figure of Yi Chun flying down to the square of the City Lord's mansion, he changed his indifferent attitude towards the others on the square and came flying towards Yi Chun with a smile. "Friend Yi Chun, you really are punctual." Yi Chun also smiled at Vice City Lord Wang. "Wang, why are so many people gathered here?" "These are martial artists sought out by the City Lord's mansion to select the real candidates to represent the Circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Battle of the Divine City War. We need to test their combat strength." "Of course, you do not need to undergo combat strength testing, Yi Chun, because I have already personally tested you," said Vice City Lord Wang with a smile to Yi Chun. Yi Chun and Vice City Lord Wang were talking quietly in the corner of the square where Yi Chun had just landed. This scene, seen from the center of the square by the dozen or so young men and women, caused them to be momentarily stunned. Who is this late-stage Sky Saint youth? They couldn't help but be surprised. When they arrived at the square, this lower God King Realm Vice City Lord Wang hardly paid them any attention, only saying a few indifferent words to ask them to wait. Now, after this late-stage Sky Saint youth had arrived, Vice City Lord Wang greeted him with a smile and kept talking with him cheerfully. When compared, the attitudes were starkly different. Of course, this made the young men and women at the 8th and 9th tier of True God level take much more notice of Yi Chun. Could this person be a junior relative of Vice City Lord Wang? But that doesn't seem quite right either. Why has he come to this gathering place for the Divine City War candidates? Could it be that he is also participating in the Divine City War candidate selection? But with his late-stage Sky Saint level, isn't he a bit too weak? Many murmured to themselves. As these people speculated, Vice City Lord Wang walked over to the group with Yi Chun in tow. "Gentlemen and ladies, this is friend Yi Chun." Vice City Lord Wang introduced Yi Chun to the young men and women. "Our Circulation of Heaven Divine City has 3 spots for the Divine City War, and the City Lord has personally decided on one of them. Friend Yi Chun will occupy one. The remaining 1 undecided spot will be contended for once everyone is here. You will all have to undergo a test of strength to determine who is most capable." Wow! The words of Vice City Lord Wang caused a stir among the dozen or so young men and women on the square. They exchanged looks, disbelief flashing in their eyes. Had Vice City Lord Wang lost his mind? Allowing this late-stage Sky Saint youth to represent the circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Divine City War? Occupying a spot directly without any testing. After all, if the circulation of Heaven Divine City ended up with the opportunity to travel to the Nine Suns' ancient land, then the three who fought in the war would be guaranteed to explore the Nine Suns' ancient land. The remaining 7 spots would definitely be allocated to the juniors of the City Lord's mansion, with little chance for others to get this opportunity. To the young people on the scene, wanting to go to the Nine Suns' ancient land meant representing the circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Divine City War, which was the only chance they had. But now, one of these extremely precious 3 spots had inexplicably fallen into the hands of this late-stage Sky Saint youth, and with the City Lord having already personally decided on another spot, all the others were left to fight for that single remaining spot for battle. The martial artists in the square felt very dissatisfied inside. Why should they, as 9th-tier true gods, struggle for a spot and yet still need to undergo testing, while this late-stage Sky Saint youth directly took a spot for himself? Their dissatisfied expressions, of course, did not escape the eyes of Yi Chun and Vice City Lord Wang. Yi Chun shook his head with a smile. Naturally, he felt no need to go out of his way to explain anything to these people. Vice City Lord Wang simply smiled wryly, and in the end, he spoke to the group of young men and women. Yi Chen's combat power is beyond your imagination. It's our great fortune to have him help our circulation of Heaven Divine City, a minor divine city, participate in the Great War. Hiss! The praise from Vice City Lord Wang made all the young men and women present take a sharp breath of cold air. A youth in the late stage of the Heavenly Saint realm, to receive such high praise from Vice City Lord Wang. One must know, even the 9 tribulations true gods present didn't seem to catch much of Vice City Lord Wang's fancy. Could this youth be even more formidable than the 9 tribulations true gods? All the young men and women present were native martial artists from the minor circulation of Heaven Divine City. They had never heard of a youth in the late stage of the Heavenly Saint realm who could match or even surpass the 9 tribulations true gods. Regarding Vice City Lord Wang's words, they were completely dubious. Find exclusive stories on Novelbin.com. Yi Chen, don't mind them. I have already engraved the scene of our battle into a battle fragment and handed it over to the City Lord. The City Lord has personally determined that you are the second candidate to represent circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Battle of Divine Cities. Don't worry. Vice City Lord Wang transmitted a message to Yi Chen. Seeing Yi Chen nod, Vice City Lord Wang no longer spoke and turned his eyes toward the void, waiting for the rest of the candidates to arrive. But at that moment, Yi Chen suddenly looked toward a seemingly empty space not far behind him. Yi Chen had been sensing that someone was quietly observing him, and upon looking, he activated his Destruction Eye skills, and directly saw 2 figures standing within a spatial crack in that seemingly empty void. One of them was a tall, middle-aged man in a green robe with a beard, and the other was a young girl in white. Could this tall, middle-aged man be the Lord of Circulation of Heaven Divine City? And the girl in white, could she be the young lady predetermined by the City Lord as one of the participants in the Battle of Divine Cities? Yi Chen thought to himself. As soon as he looked, Yi Chen even sensed a dangerous aura emanating from the white-clad girl, which made his heart tremble a bit. The feeling this girl gives me, if we were to battle, I might not be confident of winning. If she truly is one of the chosen candidates to represent this minor divine city in the Battle of Divine Cities, then it's possible for circulation of Heaven Divine City to stand out among the 18 minor divine cities. Yi Chen thought as he turned his head back, his eyes flashing a sharp light. As Yi Chen glanced over, the green-robed middle-aged man and the white-clad girl in the void also started momentarily. The girl in white then smiled gently at the green-robed man. Uncle Nye, is this the powerful youth you mentioned? The one chosen by Vice City Lord Wang? To be able to discover us in our hidden state at his Heavenly Saint later stage realm indeed shows he's extraordinary. Look at the other young men and women down there, completely unaware of our presence. At this moment, the green-robed middle-aged man also deeply nodded, his eyes revealing a look of shock and satisfaction. It seems this young man's miraculousness far exceeds my expectations. Perhaps he really comes from one of the big divine cities, for otherwise, he wouldn't possess such a terrifying combat power across boundaries. Such talents are rare even in the big divine cities. Either they have their own fortune and wouldn't come to the Nine Suns' ancient land, or they would directly take one of the 10 slots from the big divine cities and look down upon the need to battle for a spot to the Nine Suns' ancient land offered by a minor divine city. I heard this youth came here for the divine king of the Zhou family from Fallen Moon City, who has been missing for a long time. This time, it seems we've stumbled upon a treasure. Lady Wan, with your help, we have a good chance of securing a spot to the Nine Suns' ancient land this time, the green-robed middle-aged man said. Hearing the green-robed man's words, the girl in white simply smiled lightly, neither affirming nor denying, her eyes once again looking down toward the square. Not long after the conversation between the green-robed man and the girl in white, 5 figures hurriedly arrived one after another, landing in the square. By then, all the candidates' circulation of Heaven Divine City was looking for the Battle of Divine Cities had finally all arrived. Once everyone was assembled, the young men and women in the square could no longer afford to dwell on their dissatisfaction with Yichun. They understood that the situation could not be changed, and they had to compete with all their might for the last available slot. At this time, Vice City Lord Wang smiled and nodded at Yichun, then stepped forward and walked before the group of young men and women. Boom! Vice City Lord Wang shook his sleeve, and a 20-zhang tall, huge, circular luminous pillar flew directly from his sleeve and crashed onto the ground, its base plunging into the earth of the square. This pillar is a heaven-reaching divine artifact called the 3 Divine Pillars. This pillar can absorb the combat power generated from the 3 vital signs of essence, qi, and spirit. I have altered it a bit to serve as a treasure for testing your combat power. All of you come forward and use your strongest combat methods to strike this pillar. This pillar can even withstand the combat power of a lower god king like myself. You needn't worry about breaking it. In the end, whomever's light from the combat power pillar is the highest, indicating the strongest combat method. That person will win the last slot to represent circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Battle of Divine Cities. Now, you can all come up in turn to test and compete. Chapter 650 Submission and Departure. Vice City Lord Wang's voice fell, and the young male and female martial artists in the arena walked up to the light pillar, one by one, to start the test. Yichun watched from the side, curious about whom among them would be chosen to fight alongside him in the Divine City battle. The test of the 3 divine pillars was quite straightforward. Just launch all your combat power at the pillars, and a blue light would flash upon them. The stronger the combat power, the higher the blue light column. Next to the blue light column, different height levels of the light were marked. Combat power level 27. Combat power level 29. Combat power level 31. After each test, Vice City Lord Wang announced the results based on the height of the blue light columns from the force of the combat power. In just the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, the entire test was over. In the end, a male martial artist with a dark mole between his eyebrows, a Niner Tribulation true god, achieved a combat power level of 32, the strongest among the nearly 20 contestants. 2 others were close behind him, having achieved a combat power level of 31 through the test of the 3 divine pillars. When the results came out, the best-performing male martial artist breathed a sigh of relief. Although he was confident in his combat power before the test, he still inevitably worried after the actual test that he wouldn't be able to secure the only remaining spot to join the Divine City battle. Unexpectedly, there were no surprises, and he dominated the competition. The man was thrilled, but the 2 whose combat power levels reached 31 paled in comparison. Just 1 step away, they'd missed the rare opportunity to represent circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Divine City contest. How could they not be extremely annoyed and disheartened? It's known that even if they represent circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Divine City contest, there's no guarantee of victory over other smaller divine cities or securing one of the 10 spots to enter Nine Suns' ancient land. However, Just by participating in the Divine City contest, they stood a chance of being noticed by other forces, which could bring enormous opportunities for their future cultivation. And should they be fortunate enough to win the grand contest among the 18 small divine cities belonging to Circulation of Heaven Divine City and gain access to Nine Suns Ancient Land, it would be an immense opportunity for their martial cultivation. Now, they almost had this chance, and it was slipping through their fingers. They were naturally annoyed and disheartened. At this point, the two frustrated and disheartened individuals, either blinded by failure or revived by their previous grievances, simultaneously turned their gaze to Yi-chan, who had been observing the test. They both remembered that this late-stage Heavenly Saint young man had claimed a spot in the Divine City contest without testing. While it might not have affected their interests before, they had refrained from speaking up. However, now both thought that if this young man was not as strong as them and gave up his spot, they might be able to participate in the Divine City contest. With this in mind, the two spoke out directly to Yi-chan and Vice City Lord Wang. Wang, we refuse to accept this. We acknowledge Zhao Luo's victory over us, but this late-stage Heavenly Saint young man, who didn't test and is only at the late-stage Heavenly Saint realm, has taken a spot. We absolutely cannot accept this. We hope Senior Wang will allow him to compete against us. If we are stronger, we should rightfully earn that sole spot. Zhao Luo, mentioned by the two, was the Black Mold Niner Tribulation True God who had achieved a combat power level of 32 in the test. While they admitted their inferiority to Zhao Luo, they suddenly turned their complaints onto Yi-chan. At this moment, Zhao Luo seemed quite content to stand by and watch the drama unfold. Since he had already passed the test and secured his spot, he was more than happy to watch the unrest. And the other martial artists, although they had no opportunity to contest for Yi-chan's position, felt the same indignation at him claiming a spot in the Divine City contest while only being at the late-stage Heavenly Saint realm. Remembering Vice City Lord Wang's earlier praise of Yi-chan, claiming that his combat power was beyond their imagination, they were entirely skeptical. Suddenly, amid the dissenting voices of the two individuals closest to Zhang Luo's prowess, others also began to mutter under their breath, expressing their reluctance to have Yi-chan represent the Circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Divine City contest. This turn of events greatly angered Vice City Lord Wang. Clearly, he did not want his authority to be challenged. You've already failed the test and have no chance to contend for anything. Step back. Vice City Lord Wang raised his eyebrows, looking at the two martial artists who started the commotion, and then he turned his attention to Zhao Luo. Zhao Luo, come over here. I will take you and Yi-chan to meet with City Lord Nye, and also introduce you to the contender selected by the City Lord to participate in the Divine City contest. Upon hearing Vice City Lord Wang's words, Zhao Luo stepped forward. However, Zhao Luo's gaze towards Yi-chan also carried a hint of disbelief. Meanwhile, the two martial artists, designated failures by Vice City Lord Wang, seemed either crazed by their loss or utterly unwilling to forego the chance to participate in the Divine City contest. They actually disregarded the authority of Vice City Lord Wang, a lower-ranking divine king, and shouted, "Senior Wang, you show favoritism. This young man, if he represents our Circulation of Heaven Divine City and loses even a single match, it will be a disgrace to all martial artists of our city. We don't accept him as our representative, nor do we believe in his strength." Boom! As the two men shouted, Vice City Lord Wang's expression turned cold, and with a point of his finger in the air, he directly sent the two men flying dozens of yards away, crashing heavily onto the ground. Vice City Lord Wang glanced at the green-robed, middle-aged man hidden in the void, who was watching the lively scene, then turned his head back angrily towards the two martial artists he had sent flying. Yi-chan has a place in the Divine City competition, approved by the Lord of the City. Are you dissatisfied? Or would you dare to challenge the authority of the Lord of the City? I am merely giving you a minor punishment for not following the rules this time. If you continue to disrupt the selection of my City Lord's mansion, it won't be a minor punishment anymore. Before Vice City Lord Wang could finish his words, the two martial artists yelled, "It's clearly you, Senior Wang, who is not following the rules. As long as this youngster has greater combat power than me, I will be absolutely convinced." You have been protecting him all along. Could it be that he really does not possess the strength you claim? This clamor made others nod in agreement. At this time, Yi Chun, who had been silent until now, finally sighed and looked at Vice City Lord Wang. Senior Wang, since these people all insist that I must also take the test, then let me do it. After all, it won't delay much of my cultivation technique. Enjoy new stories from Novelbin. Calm. While speaking, Yi Chen's gaze directly settled on the 2-9 Tribulation True Gods martial artists who had been discontentedly clamoring. You're saying that as long as my combat power is greater than yours, you will be convinced, right? All right then, your previous combat power test was level 31. I'll just achieve level 32. Then, as Yi Chun was speaking, his figure suddenly flashed and disappeared from beside Vice City Lord Wang. The next moment, he landed beside the 3 divine pillars. Before the clamoring martial artists could react, Yi Chen's palm gently slapped one of the 3 divine pillars. With that slap, whoosh, 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 the blue light columns of the 3 divine pillars surged upwards madly, and to everyone's astonishment, it indeed reached the level above Combat Power 32. As Yi Chun stated, this scene silenced those who were clamoring with discontent, their mouths hanging wide open. The same scene also made Zhao Luo, who had some doubts about Yi Chun, narrow his eyes. Zhao Luo knew that he had exerted his full strength during his earlier test, yet Yi Chen's casual slap had achieved a score comparable to his. What was more frightening was that Yi Chen had said he would achieve this score, and indeed, he hit that specific number exactly. With such performance, how could Zhao Luo not realize that this Sky Saint late-stage young man, Yi Chun, was much stronger than himself? To achieve the exact score one aims for meant absolute precision and control over combat power, something far beyond his own capabilities. In the midst of their stunned silence, Yi Chun merely glanced at those martial artists who had doubted him and said, "This time, I am representing circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Divine City competition. There are no more objections, right?" This time, not a single person dared to raise a doubt. Seeing this, Vice City Lord Wang shook his head helplessly. He had already said how strong Yi Chun was, but those people would not believe him until they were overawed. Of course, Vice City Lord Wang also understood these people's eagerness for a place in the grand competition of Divine City. So he did not say anything more. With a sweep of his hand, he collected the 3 divine pillars into his sleeve and then, nodding at Zhao Luo and Yi Chun, took the 2 away from the plaza. The plaza was left with a group of martial artists who still felt as if they were in a dream. Finally, these martial artists seemed to come back to their senses from their shock. As they looked at the spot where Yi Chun had stood, which was now empty, many screamed, "A late-stage Sky Saint with the powerful combat power of a 9 Tribulation True God. Where did this young man come from?" Meanwhile, the green-robed middle-aged man and the white-clothed young lady, hidden in the void's crack, shared a knowing smile, their eyes shining brightly as they too disappeared from the void. Half an hour later, Yi Chun left the City Lord's mansion. In this half hour, under the guidance of Vice City Lord Wang, Yi Chun and Zhao Luo met circulation of Heaven Divine City's City Lord Nye Yuan. As Yi Chun had guessed before, the green-robed middle-aged man was Nye, the City Lord of circulation of Heaven Divine City. At the same time, Yi Chun also met the young lady who made him feel a hint of threat. The things he learned from this young lady surprised Yi Chun. Even more, she was from the strongest divine institute among the 9 of the Myriad Vales Mountain God Kingdom, the supreme divine institute that even old man Kudu had urged him to strive to join. This revelation was both surprising and pleasing to Yi Chun. He had seen Zhao Luo's strength and doubted whether he could keep winning in Divine City's grand battle. But for this young lady, Yi Chun was confident. Probably no one could defeat her as the representative of the small Divine City's battle. Together with himself, Yi Chun thus had great confidence in circulation of Heaven Divine City securing the 10 places to go to the 9 Suns ancient land. In the end, Yi Chun truly agreed to represent circulation of Heaven Divine City in the Divine City Grand Competition that would start in a little over 2 months. After leaving the City Lord's mansion, Yi Chun went straight back to the Zhou family in Fallen Moon City. The next day, he set out with the Zhou family's young lady, Zhou, towards the treasure ground left behind by the ice-sealed God King. There were still more than 2 months until the Divine City battle, and only a little over 3 months for the crucial exploration of the Nine Suns' ancient land. Yichun wasn't worried about the Divine City battle, but the Nine Suns' ancient land would be entered by martial artists at the Divine King realm, so naturally, he wanted to increase his strength before heading to the Nine Suns' ancient land. Apart from being able to enhance his strength by entering the life origin wheel in about 2 months, Yichun would not miss out on the treasure ground of the ice-sealed God King. The ice-sealed God King had mentioned that in addition to treasures left for his people, he had also left something for Yichun. Of course, Yichun wanted to see what was there in the treasury that could help increase his combat power even more. Chapter 651, Green Spirit Dragon Fruit. The Buried Dragon Mountain Range is a gigantic mountain range located on the Dragon Star continent of the Southern Territory, which is part of the Wanmu Mountain Divine Kingdom on the Upper Plain Star continent. Stretching for millions of miles, it contains countless deep ravines, giant mountains, numerous valleys, and unique spatial areas. What's more, from the inside out, the mountain range is enveloped in layers of azure fog. This type of mist not only affects martial artists' ability to fly, but also hinders their divine sense from exploring the Buried Dragon Mountain Range. When martial artists fly through this mountain range, their speed is tens to hundreds of times slower than in other areas. The range of divine sense detection is also significantly reduced. Add to that the already intricate terrain of the mountain range, so for the martial artists of the Dragon Star continent, the Buried Dragon Mountain Range spanning millions of miles is an eternally mysterious territory that seems impossible to fully explore. In the Buried Dragon Mountain Range, countless ancient beasts reside, and rumors suggest that even super-ancient beasts, reaching the level of Middle God King, exist deep within the Buried Dragon Abyss. There is also a legend about the Buried Dragon Mountain Range. It is said that millions of years ago, this mountain range was an inconspicuous range on the Dragon Star continent. However, one day, a true spirit sacred beast Azure Dragon, which had reached the rank of a higher God King, fought a great battle with a martial artist also of the Upper God King realm. The battle started in the starry sky and descended to this continent. Ultimately, the true spirit sacred beast Azure Dragon was slain within this mountain range. The Dragon Star continent is just an ordinary celestial continent within the Wanmu Mountain Divine Kingdom, where the strongest native martial artists are only at the lower God King level. In such a continent, the sudden outbreak of a battle between martial artists at the Upper God King level and a true spirit sacred beast of the same rank can only be imagined as extremely terrifying. That battle turned the heavens and the earth upside down, completely altering the landscape of the earth and forming the vast Buried Dragon Mountain Range as it stands today. Following that battle, the divine blood of the true spirit sacred beast Azure Dragon spilled across the sprawling mountain range, transforming it from an ordinary mountain range into a treasure trove for adventurers, filled with lush spiritual plants and ancient beasts running amok. The name of the Buried Dragon Mountain Range thus originated from this event. Due to the nourishment of dragon blood, natural treasures continuously emerged in the Buried Dragon Mountain Range. Since then, many martial artists from the Dragon Star continent have flooded into the mountain range for exploration and cultivation. Some of these martial artists gained greatly in the Buried Dragon Mountain Range, but others perished in the jaws of its ancient beasts. On this day, among the countless martial artists within the Buried Dragon Mountain Range, there were 2 figures that landed on the peak of a mountain. These 2 figures were a young man dressed in azure robes with a small spiritual sparrow perched on his shoulder, and a beautiful young girl in goose-yellow attire. These 2 were none other than Yichun and Zhou, who had left Fallen Moon City and were rushing to find the treasure of the entombed Divine King. Atop the mountain peak, Yichun gazed at the endless expanse of the undulating Buried Dragon Mountain Range before him and sighed with emotion. The Divine King predecessor sure knew how to pick a place, hiding the treasure in such an ordinary mountain range within the countless beast-infested Upper Plain Star continent. In a continent like this, there are few martial artists at the level of an Upper God King who visit, with most just passing through. The native martial artists of this continent are only at the level of Lower God King. Even if there are middle god king level ancient beasts in these mountains, they absolutely cannot break the secrecy of the predecessor divine king's treasure hiding spot. Indeed, it is a suitable place for concealing treasures. Hearing the meaning in Yi Chen's words, this buried dragon mountain range was evidently the ultimate destination where Yi Chen, accompanied by Zhou Yu, was searching for the treasure of the entombed divine king. As it turned out, after leaving Fallen Moon City, Yi Chen took Zhou Yu to a transmission divine array located on a continent where the circulation of Heaven Divine City stood. In many continents of the Southern Territory's divine kingdom, there are interconnecting divine arrays. To travel from one continent to another, besides using flying boats to cross countless territories, a more convenient method is to use the divine arrays for transmission. Of course, this type of divine array transmission is extremely expensive. The cost of transmission between smaller celestial continents ranges from 10,000 to 50,000 black divine coins, the currency commonly used in the Wanmu Mountain Divine Kingdom. From a smaller celestial continent to a major divine city of the Divine Kingdom, the cost is even more substantial. Just to think, even Zhou Yu, who wanted to go to the Circulation of Heaven Divine Institute in Circulation of Heaven Divine City for cultivation, only needed 1,500 black divine coins. In contrast, the cheapest divine array transmission costs 10,000 black divine coins, indicating the significant expense. Explore hidden tales at novelbin.com. Naturally, for many influential figures in the Divine Kingdom, this expense is a trifle. And to Yi Chen, who was in a hurry to find the treasure of the entombed Divine King and whose cultivation time was also immensely precious, it wasn't a big deal, either. During his journey to Circulation of Heaven Divine City, the East Territory King had given Yi Chen 1 million black divine coins, which were enough for Yi Chen's temporary needs. Yi Chen certainly wouldn't waste time traveling between continents, so he directly took out the black divine coins and sought the shortest transmission path. After crossing 4 continents' divine arrays and spending 60,000 black divine coins, he finally reached his destination on the Dragon Star continent. Of course, 60,000 black divine coins were not much to Yi Chen, but they completely stunned the young girl Zhou Yu who followed him. Zhou Yu had never seen so many black divine coins in her life, yet Yi Chen had simply taken them out to bring her on the road. Zhou Yu had never left Circulation of Heaven Divine City in her life. Now, she had arrived at another star continent far from Circulation of Heaven Divine City. When Yi Chen smiled at her and said that after the treasure of the ice-sealed Divine King was opened, she would also have enough black divine coins. This wondrous knowledge and the possible future changes in her family's status filled Zhou Yu with boundless emotions. Even now, inside this peak in the buried Dragon Mountain range, when she heard Xiaojiu fly away and return with news gathered from the martial artists who entered the buried Dragon Mountain range, Zhou Yu still felt dizzy with happiness. In the mountain peak, after Yi Chen had expressed his feelings in a few words, he smiled and looked at Zhou Yu beside him. "Let's go. We should continue on our way." The treasure left by the Divine King predecessor is located in a territory in the central region of the buried Dragon Mountain range. Although it's not too far from here, there is a mysterious green mist in the mountains that greatly affects flying and divine sense scanning, so we still need to hurry. Zhou Yu, now completely looking to Yi Chen for guidance, naturally would not oppose. After she nodded slightly, the two of them transformed into sparrows and flew off the mountain peak, continuing their journey forward. The ancient beasts in the outer regions of the buried Dragon Mountain range were relatively weak, and thus a key target for martial artists to explore. For Yi Chen, such realms were nothing. He quickly flew past them with Zhou Yu. However, as they delved deeper into the central territory of the buried Dragon Mountain range, the speed at which Yi Chen and Zhou Yu traveled had noticeably slowed down. There were far fewer martial artists exploring this area, because although this region did not contain the legendary Middle God King level ancient beasts that were deep within the buried Dragon Mountain range, there were quite a few ancient beasts at the levels of the 8 Calamities Real God and 9 Calamities Real God here, which were already very troublesome to deal with. Inside, there were even lower God King level ancient beasts. Naturally, martial artists had to be more cautious when entering. However, the buried Dragon Mountain range was immensely vast. As long as they carefully avoided the dangerous territories and those identified realms where the lower God King ancient beasts resided, the safety of their exploration could be greatly increased. Whoosh! Whoosh! After Yichun and Zhou Yu had traveled for about tens of thousands of miles, their figures suddenly stopped on a huge boulder in the forest. Xiao Zhou, too, flew up from Yichen's shoulder and directly looked towards a place not far ahead. Not far ahead, there was a small valley filled with damp air, and in a very secluded and shady corner of that valley, there grew a purple plant. Even more extraordinary was that this purple plant bore 3 fist-sized fruits. These 3 fruits were identical, all showing a clear green color, and were extremely transparent. Through the flesh of the fruits, one could even see their cores. The most magical thing was the core of these fruits, which was a small, lifelike dragon-shaped core. Green spirit dragon fruit. Xiaojiu, who had flown into the air, exclaimed in amazement and turned to say to Yichan, "This green spirit dragon fruit is a famous strange fruit in the divine kingdom, only found in realms infused by the blood of a true dragon, and has a great effect on the cultivation of a martial artist's divine soul, even serving as a key spirit material for refining divine pills that increase the power of the divine soul. Such fruit, for both true gods and lower god kings, has a great use, and selling one for 100,000 black divine coins would be easy." Xiaojiu's words surprised Yichun as well. Yichun had not expected this mysterious fruit, which indeed looked very mystical but with no scent making it hard to discover, only found due to Xiaojiu's strong divine soul, to be so precious. 100,000 black divine coins, more than the total expense of his journey here. No wonder so many martial artists risked their lives to explore the mountain range. Finding precious treasures could indeed make many martial artists rich overnight. While Yichun was marveling, Xiaojiu smiled and said to him, "Legend has it that there is always an ancient beast called Green-Eyed Toad, guarding near this green spirit dragon fruit. The green-eyed toad does not eat the green spirit dragon fruit, but can sense the unique aura of the fruit, using it to continuously cultivate. Of course, the strongest of these ancient beasts are only at the level of 9 calamities real god, so you don't have to worry," said Xiaojiu with a light laugh. In the midst of Xiaojiu's light laughter, Yichun also smiled softly, his figure flying towards the damp valley ahead, towards the green spirit dragon fruit. Seeing treasure, of course we should take it. Yichun instantly shot to the location of the green spirit dragon fruit. At that moment, Yichun's divine sense, which had already enveloped and discovered the corner of the damp valley where the green-eyed toad that Xiaojiu mentioned was hiding, also surged forth like lightning, speeding towards him. Chapter 652-. A sudden disaster strikes. This green-eyed toad was at least several zhang in size. Compared to the normal size of an ordinary toad, it was terrifyingly huge. What was even more terrifying was its tongue. As it shot explosively towards Yichun, the toad's tongue stabbed straight at him like lightning, resembling a cold gleam shooting through the sky directly targeting Yichun's head. Yichun, who had been on alert for this green-eyed toad, certainly wouldn't let an entity of mere ordinary 9 tribulations true god realm hit him. With a light smile, the aura around his body burst forth all at once. This aura not only made the rapidly shooting tongue of the green-eyed toad retract abruptly, but it also made the large monster halt its swiftly moving figure, causing it to flee backward in a flash. In the end, it vanished without a trace instantly. Ancient beasts have a natural sensitivity to danger. This green-eyed toad sensed that Yichun's aura was powerful enough to kill it, and without engaging Yichun in battle, it fled straight away. This surprised Yichun a bit. The green-eyed toad was indeed very vigilant. What Yichun didn't know was that it was precisely because of his formidable strength that the green-eyed toad was scared away. Over the years, many people had discovered the green spirit dragon fruit, but in the end, they were all killed by this green-eyed toad. And that's why the green spirit dragon fruit had remained here until now. All right, now that the green-eyed toad has fled, it's time to take the green spirit dragon fruit. Xiaojiu, Zhou Yu, there are exactly 3 fruits, 1 for each of us. Discover more content at novelbin.com. Having said that, Yichen gently caressed the purple plant's fruit with his finger, and the 3 fruits fell into his palm. Yichen tossed 2 of the fruits directly to Xiaojiu and Zhouyu. He, as a soul beast, I do indeed need this kind of fruit. Yichen, I won't stand on ceremony with you. Xiaojiu chuckled softly, spread her wings to fly, grew a bit larger, and directly grasped the green spirit dragon fruit in her claws. Zhouyu, who caught the green spirit dragon fruit, was somewhat incredulous. Yichen, I can have a share of such a precious thing? Zhouyu had just heard Xiaojiu say that such a fruit could be auctioned off for 100,000 black divine coins apiece. 100,000 black divine coins. Even if all of the Zhou family's assets in Fallen Moon City were added up, it wouldn't amount to that much. Now, such a precious fruit was in her own hands, given to her by Yichen, which made Zhouyu almost unable to believe it. It's okay. Finders keepers, Yichen said to Zhouyu with a gentle smile. Although the fruit is precious, as we move forward, there will be many more opportunities to obtain even more valuable treasures. Don't be shy. Thank you, Yichen. Seeing that Yichen was sincere, Zhouyu thought for a moment, then smiled and accepted the green spirit dragon fruit. Zhouyu knew that only someone as powerful as Yichen could readily give away such things, because for such powerful individuals, obtaining these things was as simple as mortals picking peaches. Yichen said there would be more opportunities to obtain precious treasures, and Zhouyu certainly believed him. Yichen had the ability. Xiaojiu, how do you eat this fruit? Can you just consume it directly? Holding the green spirit dragon fruit in his hand, Yichen examined it and asked Xiaojiu. Yichen noticed that the fruit hadn't emitted any fragrance at first, but after being picked from the plant on which it grew, it was fragrant and tempting, making Yichen almost unable to resist devouring it on the spot. And seeing the lifelike dragon-shaped core inside the translucent flesh of the fruit only added to his amazement. Xiaojiu was indeed a know-it-all. Upon hearing Yichen's question, she smiled lightly and said, with this kind of fruit, both the flesh and the core can be consumed directly, but the core is the truly valuable part. Of course, it's best to use it when breaking through in your cultivation, as the sudden increase in divine soul power will make the breakthrough easier. Yichen's mind stirred, and he stopped the impulse to consume it directly. Breaking through realms? Yichen knew that within the next few months, he would be cultivating within the life origin wheel and might well break through to a new realm. I'll consume this treasure when I break through from the late stage of the heavenly saint to the true God realm. After all, I have to have treasures to face the first of the 3 tribulations. Seeing that Yichen hadn't consumed the fruit, Zhouyu also smiled and said, I've just cultivated to the 3 tribulations true God not long ago, and the sense of the 4th divine tribulation has yet to arrive, so I'll refrain from using it too. I'll keep it, and in case I need black divine coins in the future, I can sell it directly. As she finished speaking, Zhouyu playfully winked at Yichen and giggled lightly. The young girl's talk of selling it, of course, was just a joke. Such precious fruit sometimes cannot even be bought with black divine coins, so she naturally wouldn't sell it. And the Zhou family, about to inherit the treasure of the Ice Snow King, wouldn't be in need of black divine coins. Just as Yichen, Xiaojiu, and Zhouyu were brimming with smiles from obtaining the 3 green spirit dragon fruits. Yichen's brow suddenly furrowed, and Xiaojiu landed directly on his shoulder, looking into the distance. What's wrong, Yichen? Zhouyu noticed the troubled expressions on Yichen and Xiaojiu, and she was momentarily stunned. Yichen summoned Zhouyu with a gentle wave of his hand, and the girl stood beside him. Then, just like Xiaojiu, Yichen turned his gaze toward a direction in the north. Just as Zhouyu settled next to Yichen, a series of booming flight sounds filled the air, and she saw 5 streaks of light shooting towards their location. Finally, the light faded, revealing the figures of 5 people. All 5 of them were at the 9 tribulations true God realm, and the one in the front was a young man with a somewhat sinister face. As soon as this young man landed, he greedily eyed the 3 green spirit dragon fruits that Yichen, Xiaojiu, and Zhouyu were holding. The green spirit dragon fruit, it really is the aura from when the green spirit dragon fruit has appeared. I didn't expect my multi-spirit treasure belt to actually find such treasures. After clicking his tongue in admiration, the young man fixed his gaze on the small bird transformed by Yi-chan, Zhouyu, and Xiaojiu. One of you is in the late heavenly saint stage and the other at the three tribulations true god realm, yet you managed to obtain green spirit dragon fruits. You must have some shit luck. Hand over the fruits and get lost. With his arms crossed in front of his chest, the young man appeared completely sure of himself, as if he had Yi-chan and the others pegged. After all, they were 5-9 tribulations true gods. Why would they fear two lower realm martial artists like Yi-chan and Zhouyu? Yi-chen's brow also furrowed. There was no sign of these people before, but as soon as I picked the fruit, they flew over. Could it be that the aura released by the green spirit dragon fruit, after being picked, alerted them? Yi-chan shook his head and then looked back at the sinister-faced youth who demanded they hand over the fruit and leave. Get lost. Yi-chan smiled lightly. His palm caressed the air, and he stowed the green spirit dragon fruit into the ice snow jade pendant on his person. You wish. Xiaojiu also glared at the sinister-faced youth. She blurted out, sucking the green spirit dragon fruit from her claw into her stomach in one gulp, and even seemed to savor its deliciousness with a smacking sound. So fragrant, so fragrant. Zhouyu also concealed her green spirit dragon fruit at Yi-chen's silent cue. Yi-chan and Zhouyu's actions, coupled with Xiaojiu's direct consumption of the green spirit dragon fruit, instantly infuriated the sinister-faced youth before them. Good, good. Today has really been an eye-opener. Here in the buried Dragon Mountain Range, there are actually people who dare to disobey our Black Dragon stronghold. Boy, you and your little bird have successfully angered me, and there's only one outcome for angering me, and that is death. Boom! As the sinister-faced young man spoke, his aura erupted forth. The immense 9 tribulations true god aura formed a conical storm that blasted directly towards Yi-chan. At the same time, the young man leered towards Zhouyu. Of course, this girl has some looks. I won't kill her. I'll take her back to the stronghold and enjoy her for a few days before rewarding her to my brothers. Seeing the sinister-faced youth make his move, Yi-chan could only shake his head in resignation. But when he heard what he said, Yi-chen's gaze instantly turned icy. Yi-chan did not say much, watching the conical storm that the sinister-faced youth had launched. He reached out into the void with a big hand and crushed the terrifying storm in his grasp. Then, with another grab in the void, Yi-chan directly pulled the sinister-faced youth towards him. Even as a 9 tribulations true god, the sinister-faced young man couldn't resist Yi-chen's grip. This turn of events caused the originally arrogant and sinister countenance of the youth to transform drastically, as he screamed in alarm. The other 4-9 tribulations true gods, sensing things had gone awry, also attacked Yi-chan at the same time. Yi-chan waved his sleeve once. Boom! 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 The 4 incoming 9 tribulations true gods were blown back hundreds of yards by a tremendous force, slamming against the vast ancient trees of the buried Dragon Mountain Range, breaking the giant trees upon impact. The screaming sinister-faced youth was now held in front of Yi-chan by his upside-down grasp, and with a clench of his hand in the air, Yi-chan crushed the lower body of the youth into the void. Then, with a flick of his palm, he sent the youth flying hundreds of yards away, to smash into the trees as well. Hearing you talk, you've done plenty of evil things, so it's only right to cripple you, so you can't do any more evil deeds. Yi-chen's voice reached directly into the ears of the 5 men lying on the ground. The sin of the sinister-faced youth with the destroyed lower body was already unbearable, and after being smashed so fiercely, he fainted from the pain. As for the other 4, noticing the blood on the sinister-faced youth's lower body, they were all shocked and cried out, "Young master, young master!" One of the 4 looked at Yi-chan and said, "Boy, you're dead. Definitely dead." As he spoke, a signal flare of extreme speed shot up into the sky, releasing a huge blood-colored dragon pattern in the sky. Chapter 653- Divine King, Ancient Ape. The signal flare streaked across the sky with such blinding speed that both Yi-chan and Xiaojiu had no time to halt it. When Yi-chan saw the blood-red dragon-shaped pattern that formed in the sky, thousands of zhong in size and pulsing wildly, his face instantly turned sour. Yi Chun was keenly aware that this was the distress signal of the 5 people before him. Clearly, upon realizing that they were no match for Yi Chun, they had sent out a call for help to others, and these 5, having witnessed his combat power yet still daring to call for help, combined with the earlier insinuations by the sinister young man about their affiliation with Black Dragon Stronghold, an entity that was feared throughout the buried Dragon Mountain range, led Yi Chun to surmise that the individuals they represented could very likely include some of the mightiest beings on the Star Continent. A lower God King. Hearing them address the incapacitated youth as the young master, Yi Chun was even more certain that a calamity had indeed swooped down upon him. A lower God King was far beyond Yi Chun's current strength. Even if he risked damaging his lifebound flying sword, it might not be enough. Possibly only by triggering the self-destruction of the blazing lifebound flying sword could he kill a lower God King. But Yi Chun was well aware of the dangers of a flying sword's self-destruction. After all, when Heavenly Saint Lien Yu's flying sword self-destructed, he had become little more than a living dead. Until it was a matter of life and death, Yi Chun certainly would not casually resort to self-destructing his flying sword. Find your next adventure on Novelbin. Calm. Humph. With these thoughts, Yi Chun let out a cold snort, flicked his fingers and knocked the 5 unconscious. Then sent a message to Zhou Yu with a gesture and, grasping the air, pulled her into the ice snow jade pendant. Taking Xiaojia with him, he then fled the valley with the greatest of speed. As Yi Chun sped away from the valley, many martial artists within the buried Dragon Mountain range, who noticed the massive blood-red dragon pattern in the sky, were shocked. The blood dragon pattern. That's the highest level of distress signal from Black Dragon Stronghold. Who has provoked Black Dragon Stronghold? Remember, Sima Feng, the ghostly chief of Black Dragon Stronghold, is a fearsome lower God King, renowned even in the Divine King's strength rankings of the entire Dragon Star continent. In this region of the buried Dragon Mountain range, Sima Feng is the foremost powerhouse. Absolutely no one dares to offend him. Whoever has gotten into trouble with Black Dragon Stronghold is in for a world of pain. Amongst the astonished martial artists, several dressed in black, upon seeing the direction from which the signal flare came, had their expressions change dramatically. With streams of light flashing from their hands, they flew from all directions toward the same spot deeper within the buried Dragon Mountain range. At the same time, these martial artists rushed towards the direction of the signal flare with extreme speed. Following the trails of light released by these black-clad martial artists, one could see that they all converged towards a location near the core area, deep in the central parts of the buried Dragon Mountain range. This location was a massive valley, many times larger than the one where Yi Chun had previously picked the green spirit dragon fruit, and the entire valley radiated with the terrifying presence of demonic creatures. At this very moment, outside this immense valley, dozens of figures were stealthily hiding, quietly observing the valley. The leader, a gaunt middle-aged man in black, had eerie green eyes and black ghostly patterns imprinted on his forehead. The aura emanating from this gaunt middle-aged man reached the level of a lower God King, even stronger than that of Vice City Lord Wang, whom Yi Chun had encountered in circulation of Heaven Divine City, and on par with City Lord Nye. All the dozens of people behind the gaunt man were, without exception, at the realm of the 9 Tribulations' true God. At this time, one of the 9 Tribulations' true gods beside the gaunt man, seeming a bit anxious, transmitted a message. "For Chief, we've waited 20 days now, yet the Thunder Ancient Ape has shown no sign of movement. Could something have gone wrong?" The gaunt middle-aged man gazed unwaveringly into the valley and replied icily, "Even if it takes 200 days, we must wait. This Thunder Ancient Ape is the ultimate ruler of the central part of the buried Dragon Mountain range, a peak lower God King that's nearly at the level of a middle God King. Even I am no match for its power. However, the Thunder Beast Crystal inside its body is extremely precious and even beneficial for my divine tribulation. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't dare provoke such a creature. This time, however, it just so happens to be facing its divine tribulation. If it overcomes this second divine tribulation, it can directly strike at the middle God King level, and will no longer have a chance to obtain the Thunder Beast Crystal from it. Our only chance is to wait for it to start its divine tribulation, and while it's weakened fighting the tribulation, we will strike it down. On any other day, our lurking presence would have been detected by it already. Its current silence indicates that its divine tribulation is truly imminent, likely within the next few days, possibly even today. So wait for that moment when it's injured fighting the divine tribulation. It's impossible not to suffer injuries during the second strike at the middle God King level. Toward the end, the green eyes of the gaunt, middle-aged man glowed with intense greed and anticipation. Just then, those streaks of light from outside the mountain zipped rapidly to the outskirts of the region. The gaunt man, as if sensing something, vanished from his spot in an instant. The next moment, he appeared where the glinting lights were drifting. When the slender middle-aged man in black clothes grasped the streak of light and immersed his divine sense into it, his face instantly sank. Is that a distress signal flame coming from Juaner's area? And the highest level distress blood dragon pattern, too? Has something happened to Juaner? Boom! In an instant, the slender middle-aged man in black clothes returned to the original hidden boundary. He transmitted a message to the dozens of 9 tribulation true gods beside him. I'll be leaving for a bit, we'll be right back. Keep a close watch on that Thunder Ancient Ape. If there's any unusual movement, quickly send me a message. Without waiting for these dozens of 9 tribulation true gods to respond, the slender middle-aged man in black clothes vanished once again. Only the dozens of 9 tribulation true gods who were somewhat puzzled remained, transmitting messages to one another. What's going on? What has happened? Why would the fort chief rush off at this moment? After discussing among themselves for a while and still puzzled, they continued to monitor the vast valley. In the vast valley, under the watchful eyes of these 9 tribulation true gods martial artists, they could see nothing at all. Evidently, these martial artists did not dare to get too close to this vast valley. However, if one were to move further into the valley for several hundred miles, one could see an even larger area brimming with the aura of demon beasts. Within this area, there sat a gigantic ancient ape as tall as 1,000 zhang, seated cross-legged just like human martial artists. Looking at this gigantic ancient ape, one could see that its fur was a divine silver-red color, as if countless thunderbolts were raging within the strands of its fur. And in the eyes of the gigantic ancient ape, which were slightly closed, the occasional aura that leaked out carried the breathtaking essence of thunder. Above the head of this giant ancient ape, massive black clouds had begun to gather, and with the passage of time, the gathering grew more and more substantial. The speed of spatial travel for a lower god king was incredibly fast. Even though the buried Dragon Mountain range greatly affected speed, the slender middle-aged man in black clothes only took a few dozen breaths to arrive at the valley where Yi-chan had been before, by the side of the 5 people Yi-chan had knocked out. By this time, by the side of these 5 knocked-out individuals stood quite a few black-clothed martial artists. As soon as they saw the slender middle-aged man in black clothes, they hurriedly cried out to him, "Fort Chief, something terrible has happened." Without a word from these people, the slender middle-aged man in black clothes saw the bloodstains under the strange young man who had been crippled by Yi-chan. His gaze turned icy in an instant. With a flick of his finger in the air, the techniques Yi-chan had used to knock them out, which countless martial artists could not untangle, were instantly undone. The 5 who had been knocked unconscious all came to their senses one after another. Seeing the slender middle-aged man in black clothes, 4 of them cried out, "Fort Chief, a young man has crippled our young master. You must avenge him." The strange young man also awoke in agony. Upon seeing the slender middle-aged man in black, he wailed, "Daddy, it was that kid. That kid hurt me. You must catch him and tear him to pieces." Hearing the strange young man's words, the slender middle-aged man in black closed his eyes. In an instant, a mysterious sensing spread from this valley outward. 10 miles away, 100 miles away, 1,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away. Finally, he actually managed to track Yi-chan. who had already left the area by a good 20,000 miles, using the aura Yi Chun had left in the area, and he directly saw Yi Chun. "Boy, it was you who hurt my son." Utilizing the great divine skills of a lower god king, the slender middle-aged man crossed a distance of over 20,000 miles. A thunderous roar shook the air, directly assaulting Yi Chen's mind, and the slender middle-aged man vanished on the spot as well. If there were any martial artists who recognized the slender middle-aged man in black clothes, they would definitely know that this person was Sima Feng, a supreme lord of the buried Dragon Mountain range and one of the top 20 in the Divine King power rankings across the entire Dragon Star continent. After stowing Zhou into a spatial treasure, Yi Chun, moving at breakneck speed with Xiaojiu, became dozens of times faster than before when traveling through the buried Dragon Mountain range. In a moment, he had reached a place over 20,000 miles away. Just as Sima Feng activated his divine sense to track Yi Chun, and his divine sense came to within a few hundred miles from Yi Chen's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Not good. Yi Chun immediately rallied his divine soul and released all his aura in a blast, protecting his entire body. At that moment, the thunderous roar from Sima Feng that targeted Yi Chen's mind rushed into Yi Chen's brain. Even with Yi Chen's extraordinarily strong divine soul, this impact made his mind spin. His sea of qi and physical body, as if struck by a heavy hammer, let out a poo as he spat out a mouthful of blood. This caused Xiaojiu, flying beside Yi Chun, to change its expression dramatically. It instantly grew to 1,000 zhong in size to shield Yi Chun, asking, "Yi Chun, what's wrong?" Yi Chun did not respond to Xiaojiu's question but swiftly drew out the purple lightning divine sword and then turned around to face a certain area behind him. At this moment, in the area where Yi Chun was looking, space itself fluctuated, and the slender black-clothed middle-aged man, lower god king Sima Feng, directly appeared within that domain. Chapter 654 - Battle with the Lower God King. Discover more stories at novelbin.com. Sima Feng actually crossed tens of thousands of miles in an instant and directly tracked down Yi Chun. Seeing the thin, black-clad middle-aged man suddenly appearing, Yi Chun felt a sudden heaviness in his heart. This was Yi Chen's first time witnessing the true supernatural prowess of a lower god king, being able to traverse tens of thousands of miles, to make him spit out blood with a mere roar, and moreover to instantly track him down. Such strength was simply unimaginable for warriors in the Heavenly Saint realm or True God realm. Yi Chen knew that when a Nine Tribulations True God broke through to the lower God King realm, not only would their true chi increase by countless multiples, but their entire true chi divine power would undergo a transformation to a higher level. Even if Yi Chun, in the late Heavenly Saint realm, could battle a Nine Tribulations True God and possessed means far beyond ordinary warriors, the gap between his realm and that of a lower God King was too vast. He definitely could not defeat a lower God King now. Unless his star power expanded by countless multiples and his realm made a great advance, perhaps then he might stand a slight chance. While Yi Chen's heart was shaking, the thin, black-clad, middle-aged man, Sima Feng, fixed his ghostly green eyes on Yi Chun. His voice was extremely hoarse, like a ghostly wail. "Kid, you're merely at the late Heavenly Saint stage, yet you've managed to injure my son and withstand my soul-shattering strike." Sima Feng himself was somewhat shaken by Yi Chen's combat capabilities. However, such shock was fleeting, and even though Yi Chen's level of strength earned him some respect from Sima Feng, Yi Chun had injured his son, Sima Huan, so he would absolutely not let Yi Chun go. In the midst of speaking, Sima Feng's expression looking at Yi Chun turned incredibly grim. "No matter how strong you are, no matter how talented, since you've injured my son, you only have one path: death. In this buried Dragon Mountain range, no one dares to defy me. No one dares to clash with my Black Dragon's stronghold. Meet your death, and remember, the one who kills you is the lower God King, Sima Feng." Boom! As Sima Feng finished speaking, he didn't bother saying anything more to Yi Chun, immediately unleashing the aura of a lower God King. He had big plans to deal with in the ancient Ape Valley, and of course he wouldn't waste time. As the aura exploded, within a radius of 10,000 zhong, the sky darkened amidst howling winds. accompanied by terrifying cries and wolf howls. More horrifying still, amidst the chaotic aura, Sima Feng slapped his own head, and a palm-sized skull appeared above him instantly. The skull's eye sockets flickered with ghostly green flames, which in a flash stirred up, as two unmatched ghostly green beams fiercely shot towards Yi Chun. Clearly, the skull was an incredible offensive treasure. Yi Chun, while in the underwater Divine Palace's illusory chessboard formation, had already practiced up to the upper God King realm. Although it was all just a dream, Yi Chun possessed profound knowledge about the methods used by God King realm warriors. In the God King realm, the divine power they held was significantly elevated compared to the true God realm, and their lifespan experienced a tremendous leap compared to the true God realm. This elevation and leap meant that warriors of the God King realm were no longer solely reliant on true Qi divine power for battle. They would spend long periods of time cultivating their life-bound divine treasures to execute even stronger attacks. These divine treasures, honed over extensive periods of time, exerted attack power countless times stronger than divine arts, and could even incorporate heaven-reaching divine arts within them. By utilizing the treasures, one could unleash these divine arts directly, causing their destructive power to combine with the might of the treasures and increase explosively. At this moment, seeing the thin, black-clad, middle-aged man, Sima Feng, directly operating the skull to emit ghostly green beams, Yi Chun knew that this was likely the attacking prowess of one of Sima Feng's life-bound divine treasures. Struck by the ghostly green beams with an unimaginable speed, Yi Chun was hit before he could grasp what was happening. Yi Chun, even before Sima Feng's appearance when coughing up blood, had already redirected all his strength to protect himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to defend in time and would have been killed on the spot. However, even with Yi Chun's preparedness, the two ghostly green beams sent him flying tens of thousands of zhang away, smashing through no less than 100 massive ancient trees in the process. It was only because Xiaojiu rapidly flew out to unload the terrifying force from Yi Chun's body as he was being sent flying, that they ultimately managed to stop Yi Chun's continuous collision with the large ancient trees.
Yi Chun.
Xiaojiu's eyes were already entirely red, and in the icebound temple jade pendant, Zhou Yu, who could see everything happening outside, also had red-rimmed eyes. Even Bing Yi, Bing Wu, Bing Qi, and the little monkey, who were meditating inside the pendant, were all shaken awake. Were it not for Yi Chun halting them, they would probably have flown out of the icebound temple jade pendant. Yi Chun knew that with a lower God King's battle strength, even with Bing Yi and the others' help, it would be absolutely futile, and could even lead to their deaths as well. Therefore, Yi Chun had stopped them from coming out. At this moment, Yi Chun felt as if his entire sea of qi was being torn apart, and his whole body was churning as if it were about to be shredded. Boo! 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 When he had been blasted away just moments before, Yi Chun had spat out several mouthfuls of fresh blood. His clothes were completely shattered, revealing the mid-grade heaven-reaching divine artifact-level armor he had acquired from the inner sanctum of the icebound temple. Without the protection of this armor, even if Yi Chun had been on guard, he might have been killed on the spot. After glancing at the heaven-reaching divine artifact armor that had been revealed, Yi Chun quickly circulated the divine power of his undying divine body, rapidly repairing his damaged body. At the same time, he flicked his palm and a top-grade heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat appeared in his hand. With his current strength, he was not yet able to fully wield the protective abilities of the mid-grade heaven-reaching divine artifact armor, let alone the flying speed of the top-grade heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat. Therefore, Yi Chun had not used the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat when moving around before. But now, facing the attack of a lower God King he could not possibly withstand, Yi Chun had no choice but to rely on the defensive power of the top-grade heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat. Seeing that his own strike had not killed Yi Chun, who was still able to move, Sima Feng's eyes twitched. He knew very well that he had not held back in his attack. Under such a blow, even a mighty Nine Tribulations true god could have been slain. Yet this young man before him had managed to block it, taking Sima Feng completely by surprise. When Sima Feng saw the armor revealed by the torn clothing on Yi Chun, along with the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat, a sneer spread across his face. I didn't expect that a mere late-stage heavenly saint like you, in addition to being powerful in combat, actually possesses heaven-reaching divine artifacts. And they're not even of low quality. It seems you come from no ordinary background. However, no matter how extraordinary your origins may be, if I kill you here in the buried Dragon Mountain range and erase all traces of what happened, there won't be anyone to avenge you. You can't fully harness the power of heaven-reaching divine artifacts, and you think they will protect you from me? Dream on. Boom! As Sima Feng spoke, the skull above his head flashed in an instant, and two more green rays shot out towards Yi Chun. Clearly, Sima Feng had no intention of giving Yi Chun a chance to recover his strength, intending to use this divine treasure to completely finish him off. Before the green rays reached him, Yi Chun instantly flew into the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat, which then took the brunt of the assault directly. The heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat was of the highest grade, so Sima Feng's ancient treasure could not destroy it. However, even if it could not be destroyed, the attack still managed to send the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat hurtling tens of thousands of feet away, with Yi Chun unable to fully activate its power. In the end, Sima Feng reached out with a large hand and, regardless of Yi Chun controlling the flying boat, the heaven-reaching divine artifact flew back towards Sima Feng. Sima Feng, seeing that the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat could protect Yi Chun, seemed to want to take it for himself. Without the heaven-reaching divine artifact, he would be directly exposed to attacks, and within the divine artifact, he had no way to prevent it from being seized. In the end, Yi Chun and Xiaojiu, who had also entered the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat, shared a significant glance. Then Yi Chun instantaneously retracted the flying boat and revealed his figure. As he was being grasped and pulled towards Sima Feng, and as Sima Feng once again charged up the skull to shoot out the third green ray, Yi Chun flashed with divine light and suddenly stopped the momentum at which he was being captured. This divine light turned out to be Xiaojiu pouring all her soul power into Yi Chun's body, giving him a significant increase in divine power. Able to fuse divine power? It seems your spirit beast is a soul beast. Sima Feng noticed Yi Chun's halted motion, his eyes growing cold. You think with divine power fusion you can withstand my mortal blow? It's still far from enough. As he spoke, the two green rays shot by the skull heads were about to strike Yi Chun for the third time. At that moment, the life-bound flying sword, Crimson Fire, that resided within the Jian Palace acupoint on Yi Chun's forehead, took flight, gathering boundless divine power. It activated the second strike of the 9 Swords of Annihilation that Yi Chun had never before used, Wandiding, to meet the two green rays head-on. The moment the second strike of the 9 Swords of Annihilation, Wandiding, was unleashed, the earth within a radius of 10,000 feet seemed utterly overturned, each piece of ground incinerated into nothingness, as if every breath of life had been drained. These breaths, at an incredible speed, all flowed into the second strike of the 9 Swords of Annihilation wielded by Yi Chun's life-bound flying sword, Crimson Fire. A single sword met the attack, splitting heaven and earth, and finally shattered the two green rays completely. This turn of events left Sima Feng with a shock in his eyes. Flying sword, heaven-reaching divine art. You boy, sure to have quite a few hidden cards. It looks like I need to employ my trump card to deal with you. In Sima Feng's astonished gaze, he patted his forehead once more, and another ancient treasure that he nurtured within his body space emerged above his head. This ancient treasure was a black ancient banner adorned with countless ghastly specter patterns. And at that moment, Yi Chun too moved his palm, grabbing onto the life-saving talisman East Territory King had left behind. Chapter 655- Divine Tribulation Treasure. Yi Chun knew that the upcoming battle was reaching its most critical moment. If his divine power, fused with Xiaojiu's, couldn't withstand the strike from lower God King Sima Feng, then Yi Chun would have no choice but to use the life-saving talisman left by the East Territory King. Although activating the life-saving talisman meant, According to the agreement with the East Territory King, Yi Chun could no longer wander freely in the Southern Territory and would have to be taken back to the East Territory King's residence for protection. Under those circumstances, Yi Chun would be unable to participate in the upcoming Divine City battle and the exploration of Nine Suns' ancient land. He truly didn't wish to use the talisman. However, compared to resisting with the self-explosion of his flying sword, which might turn him into a walking corpse, the better choice for Yi Chun was evidently to use the life-saving talisman. After all, using the life-saving talisman wouldn't cause him any injury, it would just deprive him of the freedom to explore for a while. As Yi Chun's mind raced, on the other side, the ancient banner in the hands of Sima Feng had been fully activated by his unique heaven-reaching divine power as a lower god king. In an instant, Yi Chun felt countless evil ghost figures flying out of the black ancient banner and surging toward him. To Yi Chun, each of these evil ghost figures felt as powerful as the terrifying spirits of a ninth tribulation true god. And what was more frightening was that upon emerging from the black ancient banner, they howled manically. These howls possessed incredible killing power against the divine soul. Even with Yi Chun's formidable divine soul power, he felt his divine soul shaking as if starting to disperse amidst the howls of the countless evil ghost figures. Yi Chun was greatly alarmed and could no longer afford to use the soul power, merged with Xiaojiu, to execute the Jaime Jujin technique. Instead, he instantly fused Xiaojiu's soul power with his own divine soul power to resist the evil ghost's howling attacks. At the same time, using his physical combat strength and the power of the stars, Yi Chun wielded the first of the Jaime Jujin to deal with the numerous evil ghost figures that had come close. In the blink of an eye, Yi Chun was completely surrounded by a sky full of ghostly shadows, and from a distance, it seemed as if he were being attacked by a gigantic black sphere. Beyond the countless ghostly shadows, the black-robed, gaunt, middle-aged Sima Feng, seeing Yi Chun wrapped in countless evil ghost figures and frantically responding to them, smiled coldly. My 10,000 Ghosts banner is an ancient treasure forged from the souls of countless powerful beings. Its might ranks first among all my possessions. This treasure not only attacks the physical body and true energy, but it is also immensely damaging to the divine soul. With this treasure, many lower god kings are no match for me, and you, boy, let's see how long you can hold out. However, the night is long and dreams are many. Relying solely on the 10,000 Ghosts banner to attack is insufficient. I shall also attack and directly kill this youngster. While speaking, a flash of cold light appeared in Sima Feng's hand, and a thin divine light cold blade materialized in his palm. In an instant, Sima Feng prepared to flash forward to directly strike Yi Chun, who was enveloped by countless evil ghost figures. Just then, Sima Feng's expression suddenly changed, and he stopped dead in his tracks. He slapped his hand, and a tablet appeared in his palm. The ghastly, fanged specter carved on the tablet suddenly began to flicker with an inexplicable bright light. My mother-child in soul pendant is showing unusual activity. Could it be that the other half of the mother-child in soul pendant, which I placed in the Thunder Ancient Apes Valley to sense any movement, is responding now? Has the divine tribulation of the Thunder Ancient Ape finally arrived? The Thunder Ancient Ape was related to the Thunder Beast Crystal, an item immensely helpful to lower god kings undergoing their divine tribulation. For Sima Feng, that was naturally more important than killing Yi Chun. Crossing the divine ordeal, every moment is critical. If you miss the best chance to kill the Thunder Ancient Ape, then it's all over. Enough. Let's deal with that Thunder Ancient Ape first, and then kill this boy. After all, having launched an attack with my 10,000 Ghosts banner, I've already planted the evil ghost mark on this boy's body. Even if he can fend off the attacks of the 10,000 ghosts now, he absolutely can't escape my tracking. Thinking this, Sima Feng's cold gaze towards Yi Chun flashed. He slapped his head, and in an instant, the ancient treasure, 10,000 Ghosts banner, he had summoned was retracted back into his body. At the same time, he also directly put away Divine Light Cold Blade, and his figure zigzagged, disappearing straight from the scene. This Sima Feng, at such a critical moment, didn't kill Yi Chun. The next moment, Sima Feng arrived tens of thousands of miles away. As he shuttled through the void, he sensed messages from his subordinates left outside the huge valley where the Thunder Ancient Ape was, his eyes flashing with surprise, and then he disappeared into the void once again. Although Sima Feng headed straight for the Valley of the Thunder Ancient Ape, the evil ghosts he had activated beforehand were still attacking Yi Chun. However, without Sima Feng's simultaneous attacks, these evil ghosts were gradually slain and resisted by Yi Chun, and the pressure began to lessen. Eventually, when Yi Chen's divine power was nearly depleted, even the divine power integrated into his body from Xiaojiu was almost exhausted. Yi Chen finally slaughtered all the countless evil ghost figures surrounding him. Then, Yi Chen saw that his surroundings were completely empty, with Sima Feng long gone without a trace. I almost used the life-saving talisman. Did Sima Feng miss such a good opportunity to kill me? Yi Chen was taken aback. Of course, he did not believe that Sima Feng let him go out of kindness. From Sima Feng's earlier move, there was not the slightest mercy. Could it be that there was something big that made him leave in such a hurry? Your next read is at novelbin.com. No matter, at this moment my divine power is about to be exhausted, and I am extremely weak. I fear I couldn't withstand even a 5 tribulation true God ancient beast. It's better to make my way to the treasure land of the God King as quickly as possible for safety. As Yi Chen's gaze flickered, with a pat of his hand, 2 figures were pulled out from his spatial treasure. These 2 figures, one was Xiaojiu, just like Yi Chen, whose soul power was almost exhausted and who was feeling a bit hollow. The other figure was Bing Yi. Xiaojiu, are you all right? Yi Chen asked Xiaojiu. Xiaojiu smiled wryly and shook his head. No major harm done. Just need to meditate and recuperate to replenish my soul power. Yi Chen, that lower God King is probably quite formidable even among his peers, to have beaten us in such a bad shape together. Seeing that Xiaojiu was all right, Yi Chen felt somewhat relieved. Then, he directly said to Bing Yi, Bing Yi, take me to the treasure land of the God King as fast as possible. I will guide you from the ice snow jade pendant. Yes, master. Bing Yi, seeing Yi Chen's condition, also felt immense heartache. Seeing Yi Chen and Xiaojiu both flying into the ice snow jade pendant in a flash, Bing Yi held the ice snow jade pendant in her hand, and the next moment, her figure too disappeared without a trace. Chapter 656-. The Ancient Ape Crosses the Divine Tribulation, the vast valley inhabited by the Thunder Ancient Ape. As Sima Feng rushed toward this immense valley, it had already become drastically different from before. One could see that the monstrous aura emanating from the entire valley was many times more formidable than earlier. The 9 tribulation true gods from Black Dragon's stronghold couldn't withstand this terrifying monster aura at all, and had been forced to retreat dozens of miles away. Not only was the monstrous aura sky-high in the valley, but one could also see that the sky above the huge valley was now completely covered by dark, oppressive clouds of calamity. Moreover, the 1,000-foot-tall gigantic ancient ape, which had previously been seated in meditation, had now stood up. Proudly standing upright like a human, its divine eyes were fixed intently above its head. Finally, after letting out a thunderous roar to the heavens, the colossal ancient ape fiercely pounded its massive chest several times. Then, with a powerful spring of its legs, it shot towards the terrifying black calamity clouds in the void. As it charged at the calamity clouds, spirals of thick lightning dozens of feet thick suddenly burst forth from the mystic silver and red fur covering its divine body. The entire ancient ape was completely enveloped in lightning, as if it were donning a suit of lightning armor. In an instant, the ancient ape plunged into the terrible calamity clouds, and the already poised clouds let out an earth-shattering thunderous boom. Then they struck at the ancient ape with a force as mighty as thunderbolts. Despite the 1,000-foot stature of the ancient ape, it seemed as minuscule as an ant compared to the calamity clouds that spread across the entire sky. When the calamity clouds produced thunderous divine tribulation lightning, each bolt was pitch black and dozens of times larger than the ape's body, relentlessly slamming onto the ape. This ancient ape was an absolutely powerful being even among the lower god kings, so naturally, It wasn't afraid of the initial strikes of divine tribulation lightning. Roar! 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 Amidst its heaven-shaking roars, the ape astonishingly reached out its great hand and tore apart bolt after bolt of divine tribulation lightning, each dozens of times larger than its own body. However, as countless bolts of divine tribulation lightning cascaded down like torrential rain and their power grew ever stronger, the ancient ape began to be suppressed. The fur on its body stood on end, and right in the center of its brow, a silver-white crystal emitted endless brilliance. This silver-white crystal was none other than the most precious thing on the Thunder Ancient Ape, the supreme treasure it had been cultivating and nurturing, the Thunder Beast Crystal. The ancient ape had indeed begun to undergo the divine tribulation, using the power of the Thunder Beast Crystal to counter the tribulation. In the void, for thousands of miles around, the sky was covered with dense lightning flashes, accompanied by constant thunderous rumblings, together with the occasional earth-shattering roars of the Thunder Ancient Ape. This composed a scene of tribulation that was terrifying to the extreme. This sight completely stupefied the 9 tribulation true gods who had retreated a great distance. They couldn't imagine that the divine tribulation for a lower god king to advance to the middle god king was countless times more fearsome than the heavenly tribulations they had faced time and again. Too terrifying. Is this the legendary divine tribulation? No wonder many lower god kings perish in this divine tribulation. Its power is simply horrifying to the extreme. Any fraction of it would undoubtedly kill us instantly. This Thunder Ancient Ape is truly too strong. It can still hold on in the face of such a terrifying divine tribulation. The dozens of 9 tribulation true gods from Black Dragon Stronghold were all pale at the sight of this frightening divine tribulation lightning. They trembled at the thought of facing the divine tribulation when they would eventually attempt to break through to the God King realm. None of them could say with certainty that they would be able to pass through the divine tribulation of the God King realm. With pale faces, these 9 tribulation true gods watched the Thunder Ancient Ape roaring amidst the heaven-wide divine tribulation lightning, anxious expressions appearing in their eyes. Why hasn't the fort chief come yet? If we miss the critical moment to kill this Thunder Ancient Ape, that would be terrible. Could it be that our message hasn't reached the fort chief yet? Just as these 9 tribulation true gods were growing extremely anxious, space fluctuated, and the lean, middle-aged Sima Feng in black clothing appeared right beside them. Fort Chief, you've finally arrived. The Thunder Ancient Ape has begun to undergo the divine tribulation. Seeing Sima Feng arrive, the 9 tribulation true gods surged towards him with great joy. But Sima Feng didn't even glance at these 9 tribulation true gods. His green eyes were fixed on the void, on the Thunder Ancient Ape bathed in the immense divine tribulation lightning. Sima Feng's fists were clenched tightly, his heart filled with both tension and excitement. It's here, finally here. Whether we can obtain the Thunder Beast Crystal all depends on this battle. While Sima Feng hurried back to the immense valley, intently watching every move of the Thunder Ancient Ape, ready to seize the opportunity, Bing Yi, who had been traversing the void, crossed over 100,000 miles of territory and finally arrived on the other side of the buried Dragon Mountain range, opposite the gigantic valley. There, a huge black abyss stood surrounded by a ring of peaks. At this moment, Yi Chun emerged once again from the ice-snow jade pendant and stood beside Bing Yi, looking towards the giant black abyss. The Divine King's treasure trove is right here. This time, entering the treasure trove, no matter what treasures are found, we must wait for the right moment to enter the life origin wheel for cultivation. We must break through into the true God realm. Yi Chun had somewhat recovered his vitality by now, but his face still looked a bit haggard. The brief clash with the lower God King, Sima Feng, filled Yi Chun's heart with deep sentiments. He was far from being a match for a person like Sima Feng. Moreover, if it weren't for Sima Feng being preoccupied, if he didn't have the life-saving talisman from the East Territory King, facing such peril, it was very likely that he was bound to die. This, of course, was something Yi Chun could not accept. Yi Chun had already felt that his trump cards were somewhat inadequate in the vast god kingdom of the Wanmu Mountains. rising all the way from the heavenly wind kingdom in the barbaric wilderness continent. He certainly understood the importance of having aces up his sleeve. He had already made up his mind that once the opening time for the life origin will arrived, he would enter it at once to cultivate at 100-fold time velocity. Another reason Yi Chun was so resolved was that upon introspecting his body, he discovered mysterious black marks within his cells. These black marks appeared after he had slain countless evil spirits summoned by Sima Feng's 10,000 Ghosts banner. No matter what means Yi Chun employed to remove these black marks, he was unable to shake them. His heart immediately tensed up. Yi Chun knew that these black marks were surely left behind by Sima Feng as a measure against him. It was clear that although Sima Feng had left due to some urgent matters, he had not let Yi Chun off, leaving this special mark on him, likely to continue pursuing him later on. In such a situation, lacking the ability to contend with Sima Feng, Yi Chun certainly wouldn't leave the treasure site of the ice-sealed Divine King rashly. After all, within the Dragon Star continent, no place was safer than the treasure site left by the ice-sealed Divine King. When the ice-sealed Divine King left his treasures here, he had already stepped into the tier of upper god kings. His treasure site, even if pushed by Sima Feng, a much stronger lower god king than Yi Chun, would absolutely remain unshakable. In the midst of his troubled thoughts, Yi Chun flipped his palm, and 3 peculiar keys appeared in his hand. Then, following the method taught by the ice-sealed Divine King to enter the treasure site, Yi Chun struck a spell with his hands. The 3 peculiar keys turned into 3 beams of light, enveloping Yi Chun's body layer by layer. After that, having retracted Bing Yi back into the ice-snow jade pendant, Yi Chun peered into the black abyss below before leaping headlong into it. A moment later, Yi Chun paused on the leaf of a vast and ordinary ancient vine, deep within the black abyss that was tens of thousands of feet deep. Then, as the 3 beams of light around him flashed, Yi Chun flew directly into the miraculous realm within the leaf. Looking into this miraculous realm, it could be seen to be a colossal hall where countless treasures were gleaming brightly. This place was none other than the treasure site left by the ice-sealed Divine King. With a thought, Yi Chun summoned Xiaojiu and Zhou Yu from the ice-snow jade pendant. Together, they began scrutinizing each piece of treasure before them. Just as Yi Chun finally entered the treasure site of the ice-sealed Divine King, in that vast valley, the Thunder Ancient Ape's divine tribulation had reached an extremely critical moment. By now, the body of the Thunder Ancient Ape was covered in spots of blood. Even as powerful as the Thunder Ancient Ape was, under the terrifying divine tribulation thunder, it had suffered some injuries. At this moment, the Thunder Ancient Ape's sagacious eyes shone even brighter. Amidst its roaring towards the sky, its huge, fuzzy palm flipped, and a giant silver-red spear appeared in its grasp. The Thunder Ancient Ape stepped deftly and, raising the spear, slammed it against the countless bolts of divine tribulation thunder that were crashing down on it. Boom! 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 On one side was the fearsome divine tribulation thunder spreading across thousands of miles, and on the other, the Thunder Ancient Ape, minuscule by comparison but continuously resisting the onslaught. The entire process of crossing the divine tribulation gradually lasted for a good half an hour. At this pivotal moment, using the silver-red spear, the Thunder Ancient Ape was still holding up against the ceaselessly heaven-thrusting divine tribulation thunder. Just then, hidden outside, Sima Feng, who had been closely watching the Thunder Ancient Ape, had his expression turn completely tense. Legend has it that there are 3 colors of divine tribulation thunder when a lower god king strikes at becoming an upper god king. He muttered to himself. The first color is the black divine tribulation thunder. The second one is crimson divine tribulation thunder. And the last color is the starry divine tribulation thunder, signifying the final transformation to ascend as a middle god king. Of the 3 colors of divine tribulation thunder, one is more terrifying than the next. This Thunder Ancient Ape has already endured the first type of divine tribulation thunder. Next, it faces the second type. Read latest stories on novelbin.com. During the second divine tribulation thunder, it will surely not exert its full strength. as it must conserve power to face the even more terrifying third type. Therefore, it is very likely that during this second thunder, it will show flaws and suffer grave injuries. My chance to strike at it comes at the most critical time. As Sima Feng's thoughts surged wildly, above the void, just as he had anticipated, the oppressive black divine tribulation thunder that covered the sky suddenly whirled and turned into a crimson red in an instant. Then, more fearsome and enormous than the previous sky-filling black divine tribulation thunder, bolts of crimson red divine tribulation thunder roared down from the sky and struck the thunder ancient ape. Chapter 657 The Icebound Puppet and the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror. While Sima Feng stared intently at the thunder ancient ape undergoing its divine tribulation for a large part of the hour, Yi Chun, who had entered the treasure trove of the frozen god king, had also made a major discovery. Inside the treasure hall of the frozen god king, when Yi Chen, accompanied by Xiaojiu and Zhouyu, turned his gaze to the treasures in the center of the hall, he saw countless shining treasures divided into two large sections. The first section was placed on the left, and a stone stele with treasure patterns explained that the treasures here were all for the descendants of the Zhou family. However, it was clear that when the frozen god king left this treasure trove behind, he trusted immensely in the future inheritor he had entrusted to open the treasure trove, and had not set any prohibitions here at all. Of course, Yi Chun wasn't going to covet the Zhou family's treasures. He had already received many gifts from the frozen god king, and repaying the descendants of the frozen god king was even more appropriate. After seeing the inscription, Yi Chun smiled and let Zhouyu go over to collect the treasures there. Zhouyu stepped forward, and as she looked at those treasures, the splendor in her beautiful eyes grew brighter and brighter. Among these treasures were black divine coins that could be used directly, stored in 4 treasure chests. There were cultivation manuals particularly suitable for the Zhou family's bloodline, divine artifacts and treasures, several heaven-reaching divine artifacts, and a bunch of divine power talismans specially refined by the frozen god king. There were also many manuals on how to use these treasures and the frozen god king's instruction to his descendants. Seeing these treasures and the earnest teachings of the frozen god king, an ancestor who had traveled to other worlds to cultivate, Zhouyu wiped away her tears. The girl knew that Yi Chen hadn't deceived her. She really had received a great treasure from her ancestor, which could change the entire Zhou family once again, rising once more. Zhouyu also knew the principle of not flaunting wealth. She would follow her ancestors' instructions, properly use these treasures, and continuously strengthen her family. With those divine power talismans, at least within the star continent where circulation of Heaven Divine City was located, no one could threaten the Zhou family anymore. While Zhouyu looked at the treasures belonging to the Zhou family, Yi Chun and Xiaojiu then moved to the treasure section on the right side of the hall. This area was where the frozen god king had left treasures specifically for those who gained his inheritance. The treasures here, unlike those left to the Zhou family, were not as varied, but their preciousness was by no means less than that of the treasures on the left side. Yi Chun saw that just the treasure chests alone were the same as on the left, with 4 in total, containing a full 10 million black divine coins, the common currency of the Wanmu Mountain divine nation. Of course, this was not all of the frozen god king's fortune at the time, but even this portion of black divine coins left in the treasure trove was enough for Yi Chen's expenses during the initial stages in the divine nation. Besides black divine coins, Yi Chen's attention was even more drawn to a stone platform beside the treasure chests. On top of the stone platform, there were 3 palm-sized snow-white stone puppets. When Yi Chun read the inscription beside them, his spirits lifted. These 3 palm-sized snow-white stone puppets are actually a kind of battle puppet known as frozen puppets. Inside these battle puppets is a heaven-reaching divine technique refined by the frozen god king, which can be activated using the divine stones commonly used to drive puppets in the divine nation. These 3 frozen puppets can exhibit the highest combat power of a middle god king level. However, to drive this level of combat power for a quarter of an hour, it will consume 10,000 divine stones. The divine stones left by the frozen god king to drive these puppets are only 100,000 in total. It seems, to be able to leverage the combat prowess of these 3 puppets, I will need to search for more of these divine stones. Yi Chen thought slowly to himself. However, even though the divine stones for powering this treasure were limited and more needed to be found, this treasure was of great use to Yi Chen, even more so than many heaven-reaching divine artifacts. After all, Yi Chen's current combat power was not even enough to defeat Sima Feng of Black Dragon Stronghold, let alone battle a middle god king. But with these 3 frozen puppets, as long as he found enough divine stones for activation, even if faced with a middle god king, Yi Chen would have had a means to contend. These 3 frozen puppets could at the very least be used until Yi Chen's combat power reached the middle god king level. Now, they were of great use to Yi Chen. With these 3 frozen puppets, Yi Chen didn't have to fear Sima Feng anymore. Even if Sima Feng came looking for trouble now, the divine stones left by the frozen god king were sufficient to power the frozen puppets to execute him. This, of course, was a huge relief for Yi Chen. After examining the 3 snow-white puppets in his hands for a moment, Yi Chen took these 3 frozen puppets and the divine stones that powered them into his spatial treasure. Then, Yi Chen turned his gaze to the last remaining stone platform. On this platform, there was an ancient colored mirror. Seeing the inscription next to the mirror, Yi Chen read the message left by the frozen god king. This mirror is a mighty auxiliary heaven-reaching divine artifact that I used all the way up to the middle god king level. After I advanced to upper god king, I no longer used this treasure and left it here in the treasure trove. This treasure is known as the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror. With this mirror, one can even survey a small portion of the star continent. Of course, operating the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror consumes a tremendous amount of combat power. If one's combat power is insufficient, the range of exploration will be much smaller. However, even then, the scope of its survey far exceeds that which a warrior could achieve by merely using their divine soul to explore the terrain. Even Xiaojiu, who was beside Yi Chen, was somewhat shaken upon reading the description of the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror. Xiaojiu turned to Yi Chen and said, "Yi Chen, this is quite a treasure. As a soul beast, my divine soul possesses a vast scope of exploration, but the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror covers an even wider range. With this treasure, it will be much more convenient for you to survey the land in the future. Normally, the 2 of us can use divine sense to explore, but when we need to survey a larger area, we can directly use the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror." Hearing Xiaojiu's words, Yi Chen nodded. This treasure indeed seemed very useful. However, his combat strength had not fully recovered after his battle with Sima Feng, and he couldn't immediately test the power of the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror. "After I meditate and regulate my breath for a while, I'll try it, activating the treasure to survey the buried Dragon Mountain range to see just how far my current combat power can reach." After examining the treasure Extreme Vision Divine Mirror that was placed at the very end and memorizing the spell to operate the mirror in his mind, Yi Chen swept his sleeve and gathered all of the treasures the ice-sealed God King had left for him in this treasure trove. At that moment, on the other side, Zhou also activated her spatial treasure and collected all the treasures the ice-sealed God King had left for the descendants of the Zhou family. Gazing at the now empty treasure hall, Yi Chen smiled at Zhou and said, "Zhou, we've finished finding all the treasures. I plan to cultivate and attempt to break through realms for a while. You may return to the circulation of Heaven Divine City first. I'll have Bing Yi take you back." Zhou shook her head and offered a gentle smile. "I'll stay and cultivate with you here, and we'll go back together when you return to the circulation of Heaven Divine City to join the battle for the Divine City." Zhou thought that Yi Chen was worried that Sima Feng would harm her, and that's why he suggested she leave first. The young girl was somewhat stubborn in her heart, wanting to face the difficulties alongside Yi Chen. She believed that Yi Chen would definitely overcome these challenges. Even without the issues concerning Sima Feng, she wanted to spend more time with Yi Chen. She knew that in the future, she might not have another opportunity to be with Yi Chen. Seeing the determination in Zhou's eyes, Yi Chen simply smiled and said nothing more. "All right, Xiaojiu, let's sit and meditate to restore the combat power we've depleted. After we've recovered, we'll test out the power of the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror," Yi Chen suggested to Xiaojiu. Xiaoju nodded repeatedly and sat down next to Yi Chun. Since Yi Chun had the undying divine body, his vitality recovered extremely quickly, and Xiaoju, being one of the immensely powerful nine-spirit sparrow clan of soul beasts, also had an exceptionally strong recovery ability for the divine soul. The two sat meditating for merely the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, and had completely restored the vitality and combat power they had lost while defending against Sima Feng's deadly moves. Discover hidden stories at novelbin.com. At this point, Yi Chun immediately retrieved the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror. When Xiaojiu explained the power of the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror, Zhou Yu also became astonished by the strength of this treasure and eagerly clustered around Yi Chun to see him test it out. Meanwhile, Bing Yi, Bing Wu, Bing Qi, and the little monkey all flew out from the ice snow jade pendant, gathering beside Yi Chun. Yi Chun glanced at his curious companions, smiled softly, and with a pinch of a spell in his hand, he began testing the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. All they saw was that, as Yi Chun pinched the spell, the ancient mirror flew up from his hand. As combat power surged from Yi Chun into the mirror, a vast screen of light began to spread outward from the grand hall where they were, extending further and further. 10 li, 100 li, 1,000 li, 10,000 li. As Yi Chun's combat power drained by a third, the vast screen of the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror had projected an area tens of thousands of li away. The divine sense of Xiaojiu, Zhou Yu, Bing Yi, and the others, once it entered the screen of light, was as if they had truly stepped into the immense territory being surveyed by the mirror. It was wondrous beyond compare. While Yi Chun was still expanding the survey of the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror, curious to see just how far he could reach with his current combat power, the mirror's sweep passed over a huge valley. Yi Chun's eyes suddenly narrowed. Zhou Yu at Yi Chun's side let out an exclamation. Isn't that Sima Feng? He's outside that massive valley, tens of thousands of li away from us. Looking towards the territory uncovered by the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror, they could see Sima Feng, dozens of 9 tribulations true gods from the Black Dragon stronghold, and the Thunder Ancient Ape undergoing divine tribulation in the massive valley, all of them appearing within the scope of the Extreme Vision Divine Mirror. Their actions were laid bare before the eyes of Yi Chun and the others. Chapter 658- Battle that shocked the heavens. When Xiaojiu saw the ancient ape thousands of feet tall in that massive valley, facing the vast tribulation clouds above its head, she directly said to Yi Chun, Thunder Ancient Ape. The giant ape in that valley is a powerful ancient creature of the divine kingdom called the Thunder Ancient Ape. My goodness, it's undergoing divine tribulation, and it looks like it's trying to break through to the Middle God King realm. At this, Xiaojiu felt even more shocked. Yi Chun, I finally understand why Sima Feng left in such a hurry earlier. He must be plotting against this Thunder Ancient Ape undergoing divine tribulation. To know, during divine tribulation is when one is most vulnerable, strength significantly falls. That Sima Feng might be planning to kill this Thunder Ancient Ape. It is said, Thunder Ancient Apes carry a treasure called the Thunder Beast Crystal, which is of great use to God Kings facing divine tribulations, and even more infinitely marvelous for true gods facing heavenly tribulation. As Xiaojiu spoke, Yi Chun also suddenly stood up. I was wondering why Sima Feng left in such a hurry. It turns out he's after this Thunder Ancient Ape. Perhaps he's gone for the Thunder Beast Crystal. At this point, a sharp light flashed in Yi Chun's eyes. He wants to take advantage of the Thunder Ancient Ape undergoing divine tribulation, to plan behind its back for the Thunder Beast Crystal? If it was before, I indeed had no way to deal with him. I even had to avoid him. But now, Yi Chun's hand flipped, and 3 ice-sealed puppets appeared in his palm. With these ice-sealed puppets, I no longer need to fear him. 10,000 divine stones are indeed enough to support the ice-sealed puppets in combat against a middle god king for a long time, and to kill him, a lower god king, I fear not even 1,000 divine stones will be necessary. Yi Chun couldn't forget the deadly attack Sima Feng had previously made on him. Originally, he was preparing to cultivate completely before dealing with Sima Feng. But now, seeing Sima Feng plotting against the Thunder Ancient Ape, Yi-chun would not wait any longer. Naturally, he would not let the Thunder Beast crystal fall into the hands of Semaphone, giving Semaphone one more method. Let's go to that massive valley. Yi-chun reached out, and the ice jade pendant emitted a misty light as Zhou, Bing Yi, Bing 5, Bing Chi, and the little monkey all flew into the ice jade pendant. After storing the ice jade pendant away, Yi-chun left the Great Hall with Xiaojiu. The treasure land of the ice-sealed God King had completely become deserted. As the Thunder Ancient Ape in the void above the massive valley continuously resisted the divine thunder of the divine tribulation, in a territory immeasurably far from the valley, as long as one noticed the commotion above the massive valley, countless martial artists in the buried Dragon Mountain range were flying in the void, looking towards the place where the Thunder Ancient Ape was undergoing divine tribulation from afar. Explore more stories with novelbin.com. However, these countless martial artists were only watching from a distance, not daring to approach that area by even a hairbreadth. Not to mention the terrifying thunder of the divine tribulation scared them, but the Thunder Ancient Ape's formidable combat power deterred them from coming any closer. To know, even the slightest offensive power released by the Thunder Ancient Ape during its divine tribulation could potentially kill them on the spot. Even many true gods of the Black Dragon stronghold only dared to hide outside and watch this terrifying commotion. Even a few weaker lower god kings didn't dare to come close to the perimeter of the massive valley. Sima Huan, the young family head of Black Dragon stronghold whose lower body had been ruined by Yi-chun, was also pale-faced as he watched the terrifying scene in the void. I wonder if my father has killed the youth who injured me, executed that person or not? My father came to the buried Dragon Mountain range this time just for that Thunder Ancient Ape, and now the Thunder Ancient Ape has begun its divine tribulation. I don't know if my father has gone back yet. In this buried Dragon Mountain range, only my father dares to truly plan against this Thunder Ancient Ape. After all, my father is the strongest in this entire region. Sima Huan's heart was proud as he considered this. The countless martial artists outside the massive valley, upon seeing the heavens-wide black divine thunder bombarding the Thunder Ancient Ape, who was holding a silver-red long spear to withstand these black divine thunders, were already shocked beyond belief. And when the divine thunder assailing the Thunder Ancient Ape switched from black to an even more terrifying crimson divine thunder, countless martial artists took in a breath of cold air. They witnessed with their own eyes the most powerful ancient beast in the central region of the buried Dragon Mountain range, the Thunder Ancient Ape, as it was being striked by the sky-splitting crimson divine thunder, and massive streaks of beast blood spilled from its body. When the Thunder Ancient Ape had resisted quite a few waves of crimson divine thunder, and after a dozen or so huge crimson divine thunders struck the Thunder Ancient Ape at once, the Thunder Ancient Ape vomited a mouthful of vital blood. This made the countless martial artists watching the Thunder Ancient Ape's divine tribulation tighten their hearts completely. Many exclaimed, "When divine tribulation descends, there is no escape. The more you flee, the more severe the divine punishment becomes. My God, this Thunder Ancient Beast is the strongest ancient beast in the central region of the buried Dragon Mountain range. It probably sensed the divine tribulation would descend long ago and has made comprehensive preparations. But even so, it has been injured." Amidst the exclamations of these people, another series of immense crimson divine thunders plummeted towards the Thunder Ancient Ape in the void. This time, the Thunder Ancient Ape, which had been preserving its strength for the upcoming third round of Starlight Divine Thunder, but was unexpectedly wounded, didn't dare to hold back anymore. It roared skywards, the silver-white crystal at the center of its forehead emitting an extremely piercing light. In the blinding light, the already 1,000-feet-tall Thunder Ancient Ape grew several-fold taller, reaching over 6,000 or 7,000 feet. The breath of the Thunder Ancient Ape surged even more violently, and the silver-red spear in its hand swelled tremendously. However, the injuries it had previously sustained were clearly affecting its vital energy and spirit. Even as its aura surged and its body grew larger, when facing the more terrifying descent of the Crimson Divine Thunders, the Thunder Ancient Ape still seemed as insignificant as an ant, spitting out a mouthful of pure blood once again after being struck by the fearsome Crimson Divine Thunders. And it wasn't just as simple as spitting out a mouthful of blood. Before the Thunder Ancient Ape could even react, the terrifying tribulation clouds spanning thousands of miles in the sky began brewing another round of crimson divine thunders. This round of crimson divine thunders was so powerful that it even bent the colossal body of the Thunder Ancient Ape, who seemed unable to resist any longer and was blasted from the sky, plummeting to the ground. Seeing this, countless martial artists in the distant echoed with a regretful cry. It looks like the Thunder Ancient Ape is truly injured. It's almost impossible for it to get through this divine tribulation. Even if it barely manages, it will likely suffer grave repercussions. And it will definitely die when it faces the divine tribulation to break into the ranks of the upper god kings in the future. I wonder if it will completely burn the most precious Thunder Beast crystal on its body as a last resort. That Thunder Beast crystal is incredibly valuable, but alas, we are not capable of obtaining it. Amidst the conversations of these numerous martial artists, the Thunder Ancient Ape, which had been blasted down from the sky, suddenly let out a fierce roar, and the completely silvery white crystal at its brow began to burn. The Thunder Beast crystal is burning. It seems like the Thunder Ancient Ape is prepared to give up everything for one final struggle, willing to risk serious harm to its body just to survive. Seeing the Thunder Ancient Ape actually burn the Thunder Beast crystal just as many martial artists had guessed, countless of them took in a deep breath. At this moment, something unbelievable occurred. They actually saw a thin man dressed in black soar up from not far away from that huge valley, directly flying towards the Thunder Ancient Ape in the void. That is, the strongest warrior of the buried Dragon Mountain range, Black Dragon Stronghold's Fort Chief, Simafong? He's been hiding near that huge valley all along. My God, he couldn't be plotting against this Thunder Ancient Ape undergoing tribulation. Could he? Countless martial artists couldn't believe the scene unfolding before them. Meanwhile, Sima Huan, the young family head of Black Dragon Stronghold surrounded by many martial artists, exclaimed with joy, "It's Father! Father is making his move!" In the void, Sima Fong, flying directly towards the Thunder Ancient Ape, had a look of immense greed and excitement in his eyes. He had been observing from the side for a long time, waiting for this exact moment. Now, the Thunder Ancient Ape had been injured and was no longer able to resist the divine thunders. Even if the Thunder Ancient Ape was burning its Thunder Beast crystal, Sima Fong was not afraid of it at this moment. After all, there were endless divine thunders in the void still targeting the Thunder Ancient Ape. And the divine thunders would not strike him. This meant the Thunder Ancient Ape had to face both him and the divine thunders in a dual assault. At this moment, Sima Fong was 99% certain that he could kill the Thunder Ancient Ape. Of course, he would not wait any longer for the Thunder Beast crystal it desired to burn out. Seizing the best opportunity to strike, he made his move. Boom! 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 When Sima Fong arrived not far below the Thunder Ancient Ape, he tapped his head and a black ancient banner, decorated with countless evil ghost patterns, flew straight out from within him. A swirl of motion and the black ancient banner expanded to 100 feet in size, fluttering in the wind and releasing countless fearsome evil ghost figures. After a roar, these evil ghost figures swept towards the Thunder Ancient Ape, wailing as they attacked. This black ancient banner was precisely the 10,000 Ghosts banner that Sima Fong had previously used against Yi Chun. Now, in the face of the Thunder Ancient Ape, Sima Fong invoked the 10,000 Ghosts banner even more powerfully and terrifyingly than before when he had tried to kill Yi Chun. After all, Sima Fong had previously refrained from fully depleting the energy he had spent countless years imbuing into the 10,000 Ghosts banner against Yi Chun, as he wanted to preserve its true power for the Thunder Ancient Ape. But now, Sima Fong didn't hesitate. He unleashed the most powerful tactics of the 10,000 Ghosts banner, bringing out his strongest combat power to kill the Thunder Ancient Ape in one fell swoop. Awoo! 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 Countless evil ghosts howled and attacked. Swish! Sima Fong also drew out the divine light cold blade following the horde of evil ghosts and targeted the Thunder Ancient Ape. And in the sky, Endless colossal crimson divine thunders descended upon the thunder ancient ape once again. Chapter 659 Killing. Under the various pincer attacks, the thunder ancient ape's divine eyes gazed at the descending god's tribulation lightning in the sky and betrayed a fearful expression. However, when it turned its head and saw Sima Feng launching a sneak attack, its divine eyes erupted with furious rage. Boom! The thunder ancient ape suddenly flapped its huge hand, blowing away the countless evil ghost figures that were swooping toward it, turning them into nothingness. Just as it was about to launch an attack at Sima Feng, the endless crimson divine lightning from above had struck its body once again. Boom! 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 This strike, like countless giant hammers of immense size, directly knocked the thunder ancient ape from the high void. This strike also instantaneously caused a significant depletion of the thunder ancient ape's spirit, vigor, and essence, leaving its aura feeble and diminished. At this moment, Sima Feng, who followed behind the legion of evil ghosts with the divine light cold blade in his hand, had greed and excitement shining in his pale green eyes. Die, thunder ancient ape, your time is up. Swish! Wielding the divine light cold blade, Sima Feng burst toward the thunder ancient ape falling from the high void. The countless warriors observing the thunder ancient ape's passage through the god's tribulation from far away in the void screamed out simultaneously. It's over. The thunder ancient ape, already having a hard time dealing with the god's tribulation, is now severely wounded from attacks on both sides, and is certainly no match for Sima Feng. That Sima Feng, deserving of his reputation as the Black Dragon Stronghold's fort chief, the mightiest in the buried Dragon Mountain range, his timing was impeccable. His attack comes just as the thunder ancient ape was exhausted from facing the lightning. It absolutely can't withstand it. As these countless warriors screamed, Sima Huan, the young family head from Black Dragon Stronghold, surrounded by a crowd of warriors, became ecstatic. It's a success. Father is finally about to slay the thunder ancient ape. Just as everyone saw Sima Feng's divine light cold blade descending upon the thunder ancient ape, knowing the next moment it would be slain right there. An earth-shattering sound of spatial travel suddenly echoed between heaven and earth. This sound, clear to the extreme, was as if a powerful warrior issued a long roar. And in the next instant, everyone saw a snow-white figure, almost the same size as Sima Feng, suddenly piercing through the void to appear in front of the thunder ancient ape, right at the direction of Sima Feng's attack. Then, to the shock of all warriors, an astonishing scene unfolded. They saw the snow-white figure, upon revealing itself, immediately reach out with a large hand, and astonishingly catch Sima Feng's divine light cold blade directly. Then with a fierce pull, actually extracted the blade from Sima Feng's hands. Following that, with a powerful kick, this figure sent Sima Feng, the strongest in the buried Dragon Mountain range, flying down into the void. What's going on? This turn of events caused the countless warriors in the distant void to cry out in astonishment. Someone has appeared, coming to the aid of the thunder ancient ape? This person's strength is terrifying, managing to kick the powerful lower god King Sima Feng away with a single move. Your journey continues with Novelbin. Calm. These countless warriors could not have anticipated that the crossing of the god's tribulation by the thunder ancient ape would have so many twists and turns. From the thunder ancient ape being injured and ambushed by Sima Feng, to now, the sudden emergence of a powerful figure blocking Sima Feng. While the previously ecstatic Sima Huan saw his father Sima Feng being kicked into the void by the sudden appearance, his joyful expression instantly froze on his face. The most shocked of all was Sima Feng. He was about to slay the thunder ancient ape and obtain the invaluable thunder beast crystal. Yet a figure had emerged out of nowhere to stop him. This figure seemed to possess strength even greater than his own, leaving him unable to resist. Sima Feng's eyes immediately turned toward the figure that had kicked him, and upon looking, he saw a stone figure with no expression, ending its action, standing still in the middle of the field. With not a trace of a human's aura, Sima Feng recognized it at a glance. It was a combat puppet. Seeing the combat puppet had stopped as if controlled by someone, Sima Feng looked up and called out into the void. Which senior has graced us with their presence? And why have you acted against me? Sima Feng knew that to control a combat puppet of such caliber, at least a powerful middle god king must be involved. Hence he addressed them as senior. Moreover, Sima Feng couldn't fathom why a middle god king would bother themselves with the thunder beast crystal of a mere lower god king such as the thunder ancient ape, and why they would act against him. As Sima Feng respectfully called out into the void suddenly tore open, and a figure that Sima Feng could never have imagined appeared. Is it you? Sima Feng was so shocked he nearly fainted. The one who appeared, the one driving the combat puppet that had kicked him away. If not the youth Yi-chun whom he had previously pursued and injured, then who else could it be? Wasn't this youth injured by me, with countless evil ghosts set upon him to kill? Even if he could escape, he would surely be gravely wounded. How has he now fully recovered? And what happened to the marks I left on him? Why have they completely disappeared now? Where did he get such a formidable puppet? And why did he not act against me earlier? But now he sabotages my great endeavor? Sima Feng was completely horrified, and Sima Huan, who was already feeling uneasy when he saw his father kicked away, was now utterly agape in astonishment. He could have never imagined that the same youth his father had previously pursued and seriously injured would reappear, and it seemed that it was this youth who controlled the powerful figure that kicked his father away. How is this youth, this Yi-chun, so formidable? Sima Huan's heart shook with fear, and he wanted to flee. In the void, Yi-chun, who controlled the icebound puppet, had just intercepted Sima Feng's lethal move against the Thunder Ancient Ape. His gaze first turned towards the Thunder Ancient Ape. He saw the grateful look in the eyes of the Thunder Ancient Ape looking towards him. He also saw the Thunder Ancient Ape roar, and once again charge towards the divine thunder slashing down from the void. Yi-chun nodded slightly, turned back, and then looked at Sima Feng. That's right, it's me. Sima Feng, your son tried to snatch my treasure earlier, so I injured him. Yet you went straight for the kill. This vengeance cannot go unanswered. So today you shall fall. After Yi-chun finished speaking, his gaze shifted to the icebound puppet he was controlling, which, as if driven, instantly charged towards Sima Feng, who had just been kicked away. The mighty aura of the icebound puppet tore through the sky and the earth, leaving behind countless shards of space. No, how can you, who is merely at the latter stage of heavenly saint, possibly kill me? Do you think controlling a puppet is enough to kill me? I will kill you first. Sima Feng shouted, and the 10,000 ghosts banner he had previously wielded, in complete self-sacrifice, transformed into an enormous black mass directly blocking the icebound puppet that was lunging at him. Meanwhile, Sima Feng moved instantly, appearing in front of Yi-chun. He reached out with a large hand, intending to capture Yi-chun. You're delusional. Seeing Sima Feng still struggling in the throes of death, Yi-chun said indifferently as he disappeared from his position in the void. The next moment he reappeared. Another icebound puppet was already standing in front of him. Even without an icebound puppet before, Yi-chun would not have been caught by Sima Feng in one move. Now, with 3 icebound puppets in hand, Yi-chun certainly would not let Sima Feng harm him in the slightest. Another combat puppet? Sima Feng was utterly shocked. It was inconceivable for a heavenly saint later stage youth to possess one powerful combat puppet. And now, he had taken out another equally mighty one. When his heart was filled with shock, he suddenly felt a sense of death engulfing his heart. The next moment, as if sensing something, he turned his head and saw that the first combat puppet, which he had attempted to stop with his all-consuming 10,000 ghosts banner, had completely broken through the giant black mass and reappeared behind him. This combat puppet thrust its large hand fiercely into his body, piercing through his divine body in an instant. No! Sima Feng screamed as his divine power seemed to burn up, rapidly vanishing. In the blink of an eye, Sima Feng perished amidst his sheer panic, with his divine power completely extinguished, his corpse utterly collapsing onto the ground. The strongest fighter of the buried Dragon Mountain range, the one-time mighty figure of the Black Dragon stronghold, was certainly killed, falling on the spot. This scene made the countless warriors observing the battle from afar within the void jump in their hearts. When their gaze shifted from Sima Feng's fallen body to the sky above and saw the youth standing beside the two snow-white puppets, they felt as though they were looking upon a ruler of the heavens. This youth had actually controlled a combat puppet to kill an extremely powerful lower god king. How could this not shake them profoundly, fill them with immense fear? The most frightened were the warriors of the Black Dragon stronghold area. Upon seeing their fort chief killed outright, these Black Dragon stronghold warriors, after a brief stupor, began to flee madly into the distance without concern for anything else, not even their young family head, Sima Huan. Clearly, they feared that the powerful youth in the void would take his anger out on them and slay them all. That Sima Huan, upon seeing his father Sima Feng fall, was left with a blank mind. No matter what, he could not have imagined that the youth he had sent his father to kill would end up killing his father instead.
No, impossible.
It's over. It's over. A profound sense of loss, a deep-rooted fear, turned Sima Huan into a complete fool. In the void, Yi Chen's gaze swept over the distant warriors, immediately silencing the group whose hearts had been pounding. Then, Yi Chen's gaze turned towards the fleeing warriors from the Black Dragon stronghold, and towards Sima Huan. Chapter 660-. Mental shock. Yi Chen's voice suddenly echoed in the ears of all the Black Dragon stronghold martial artists. I have a debt of vengeance to repay with Sima Feng. As for you, I have no quarrel with you, nor will I kill you. Of course, if you wish to seek revenge for Sima Feng, feel free to come find me. Hearing Yi Chen's voice, those Black Dragon stronghold martial artists frantically fleeing stopped in their tracks. No, Senior, we will not seek revenge. Sima Feng got what he deserved. They did not dare look back and, after yelling just once, they started to flee once more. What a joke! They were just martial artists of the Black Dragon stronghold, serving Sima Feng only for personal gain. Now that Sima Feng had fallen, why would they face a powerful enemy just for a dead man? They couldn't escape from the situation fast enough. Yi Chen's gaze then turned to the somewhat dazed and foolish Sima Huan and merely shook his head. Yi Chen could see that Sima Huan was completely ruined. If he hadn't relied on the Black Dragon stronghold's power to try to seize his treasure, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Of course, Yi Chen felt no sympathy for Sima Huan. Seeing how Sima Huan tried to rob his treasure earlier, it's likely that this man had a considerable amount of blood feuds to his name and didn't deserve any pity. As Yi Chen shook his head at Sima Huan, several lower-ranking divine kings in the void saw this, and as if they had realized something, their eyes turned frosty when they looked at Sima Huan again. Of course, Yi Chen would not concern himself with the thoughts of countless martial artists. By now, the treasure of the ice-sealed divine king had been obtained by him and Zhou Yu, and all their previous enmities had been resolved. Dragon Star Continent was ultimately just a stopover on his journey. Yi Chen's gaze had already returned to the Thunder Ancient Ape in the void, who was once again preparing to resist the divine tribulation. Because at that moment, Xiaojiu's voice had already reached Yi Chen's mind. Yi Chen, although you helped the Thunder Ancient Ape fend off Sima Feng, I'm afraid this Thunder Ancient Ape won't be able to withstand this divine tribulation. As Xiaojiu spoke, Yi Chen saw the Thunder Ancient Ape under the vast ultimate tribulation clouds. Even with a stature thousands of feet tall, it seemed as frail as an ant, covered in bloodstains. Desperation and unwillingness filled the gaze of the Thunder Ancient Ape. Previously, it had been struck by the divine tribulation thunder and ambushed by Sima Feng, suffering consecutive injuries. Even now, as it continued to burn the Thunder Beast crystal and tried to ignite its power desperately, it could no longer hold back the terrifying waves of divine tribulation thunder. In the end, the Thunder Ancient Ape even let out a heavenward roar, its tone of despair causing Yi Chen's own heart to tremble upon hearing it. Whether it's a heavenly tribulation or divine tribulation, it's something martial artists absolutely can't escape. If you can push through it, it's possible to reach a higher level, but if you can't, you'll only fall amidst the catastrophe. Xiaojiu's voice was also somewhat somber. I've heard that the more powerful the martial artist or mystical beast, the greater the tribulation they draw upon themselves. This tribulation is a test, as well as an elimination process. Only the true strong can constantly transform through these trials and shine with an unparalleled divine light. But most people, most mystical beasts, will fall during this process of trials. Yi-chun took a deep breath and looked towards the Thunder Ancient Ape in the void. He also remembered the time he was practicing and breaking through in the dream space of the creation chessboard. Just like Xiaojiu said, whether it's a heavenly tribulation or a divine tribulation, it's incredibly terrifying, and as he grew stronger and stronger, so too did the tribulations he faced. Seeing the Thunder Ancient Ape now covered in bloodstains, hearing its roar of despair, it had a tremendous impact on Yi-chun. Yi-chun even felt that, maybe one day, if he didn't have enough means to cope, he might be the one emitting such a roar of despair. Of course, Yi-chun didn't want such a situation to occur. He had his parents, family, friends, and Jiang Yao. He couldn't bear to part with everyone. So even when the heavenly tribulation or divine tribulation arrived, he would have to face it and persevere. As Yi-chun's thoughts churned intensely, the Thunder Ancient Ape in the void, already struggling to endure the divine tribulation, finally managed to survive the second wave of red divine tribulation thunder. However, at that moment the Thunder Ancient Ape showed no joy. Neither Yi-chun, Xiaojiu, nor anyone else down below showed any joy, and even the distant martial artists let out a sigh, because they all knew that the next and most terrifying last wave of star-colored divine tribulation thunder would likely cause the central region's overlord of the buried Dragon Mountain range to fall. Many could not bear to keep watching and lowered their heads. The instant gap between the second and third waves of divine tribulation thunder seemed incredibly long. The next moment, that incredibly long yet fleeting gap in the divine tribulation passed, and the tribulation clouds in the sky indeed turned the color of stars. And numerous terrifying star-colored divine tribulation thunders began to gestate, swell, surge, and strike down within the clouds. At that time, even Yi-chun let out a sigh. He was unable to help the Thunder Ancient Ape. Whether it was divine tribulation or heavenly tribulation, it could only be overcome by the strength of the one invoking it. If others tried to help resist the divine tribulation thunder, it would only draw down even stronger divine tribulation thunder upon them. Just as Yi-chun no longer had the heart to watch, unwilling to witness the Thunder Ancient Ape turn to ash under the divine tribulation thunder, and was about to turn away, he suddenly sensed a voice speaking directly to him. "Young man, since you helped me earlier, I have nothing with which to repay you as I face my demise. Take this remaining Thunder Beast crystal that hasn't yet fully burned away. It won't help me resist the divine tribulation anymore. In my hands, it would only end up as ash like myself. To think that I, Gumin Tian, after numerous years of arduous cultivation in the mountains, would meet such an end. Young man, I hope my Thunder Beast crystal may offer you a speck of assistance, that it might help you withstand your calamity." The voice that reached Yi-chun's ears was shockingly that of the Thunder Ancient Ape, who had never spoken before, not even when attacked by Sima Feng, and who was now undergoing the divine tribulation. "Senior." Yi-chun's mind was shaken. He had barely managed to utter these two words when he saw the Thunder Ancient Ape give him a squeezed smile. With a giant swipe of its paw, the half-remaining Thunder Beast crystal in its forehead flew towards Yi-chun. Roar! As soon as Yi-chun caught the Thunder Beast crystal, he saw the Thunder Ancient Ape let out one final roar before its entire body burst towards the sprawling clouds of tribulation. In the end, amidst the relentless strikes of the tribulation lightning filled with the hues of endless stars, the Thunder Ancient Ape let out several pitiful wails and laughter before completely vanishing into nothingness. It had perished. The Thunder Ancient Ape, in the end, had still perished. Yi-chun's hand, holding the Thunder Beast crystal, felt very hot. This was the heat radiating from what could aid true gods and even divine kings in transcending tribulations. But Yi-chun's heart was icy cold, for he knew that even the Thunder Ancient Ape, with its powerful lower-tier divine king realm within the buried Dragon Mountain range, had failed to breach the barrier of this divine tribulation. Naturally, he would also have to face such a situation in the future. Every martial artist in the world who wishes to grow stronger must face such a situation. It's either life or death. And for Yi Chun, the day when he would face this predicament was not far off. To transform from the late stages of the heavenly saint to the void sky true God, Yi Chun must first overcome the first heavenly tribulation. Xiaojiu had said, "The stronger the person, the more terrifying the heavenly and divine tribulations they incite." Yi Chun, now in the late stages of the heavenly saint realm, already possesses the combat strength to match many nine tribulation true gods and is even many times more potent than when he trained in the dream state of the creation chessboard. Under such circumstances, it was clear to both Xiaojiu and Yi Chun that the first heavenly tribulation Yi Chun would face when breaking through to the true God realm would undoubtedly be many times more horrifying than what others experienced. It wasn't impossible for it to even reach the level of a divine tribulation. Let's go. No matter what lies ahead, we must continue to advance. With a heart full of tumultuous waves, Yi Chun, in the end, still tightly clutched the Thunder Beast crystal in his hand, his gaze becoming firm once again. The senior Thunder Ancient Ape has failed the divine tribulation. I fear that soon, I will have to undergo the heavenly tribulation and attempt to break into the true God realm. I want to see just how fearsome that tribulation is and whether I will fail or not. Boom! With a gaze of utter determination, Yi Chun reached out a great hand and gathered the storage treasures and miraculous divine treasures that had fallen beside Sima Feng's corpse. Then, with Xiaojiu and Zhouyu, Bing Yi, Bing Wu, Bing Qi, and the little monkey all inside the ice snow jade pendant, he flew away from the vast valley. After the Thunder Ancient Ape had fallen and Yi Chun had left, the whole vast valley became empty and deserted once again. All that remained on the ground was the lifeless body of Sima Feng, drained of divine power. Experience new stories on Novelbin.com. Warriors from afar had also gradually begun to disperse. At that moment, several weaker lower-tier divine kings in the void cast somber glances once again toward the foolish Sima Huan. One of these lower-tier divine kings spoke. "This senior probably does not wish to deal with this Sima Huan of Black Dragon Stronghold personally. The senior hasn't endangered us, yet we will have to take on the responsibility of removing this threat for the senior." As he spoke, the lower-tier divine king flashed next to Sima Huan. With a swift grab, this notorious brat, Sima Huan, from the buried Dragon Mountain range, immediately collapsed under the immense pressure of the divine king's aura. 3 days later, atop a massive mountain range on the other side of the Dragon Star continent, the figures of Yi Chun and Xiaojiu appeared. In this region, the strongest are merely 9 tribulation true gods. It's quite safe to attempt to break into the true God realm here. Then let's start cultivating here, and we'll return to the circulation of Heaven Divine City before the battle for the Divine City. I hope that during this time, I'll be able to successfully transcend that first heavenly tribulation and break into the true God realm. Yi Chun looked at the immense mountain range spanning hundreds of thousands of miles. In the end, he chose a peak and directly carved out a cave dwelling within it. Using the formations he had learned from the 9 volumes of Formation Array to completely conceal the cave within a great array, he then sat down inside it. "Xiaojiu, you guard me?" Yi Chun said as he handed a sealed puppet and some divine stones to Xiaojiu. Xiaojiu took the sealed puppet and divine stones, guarding earnestly by his side. At the same time, Yi Chun took out the ice snow jade pendant and placed it on the ground beside him. If he was to attempt a breakthrough in his cultivation, it was very possible that he might incite a heavenly tribulation, so he naturally would not keep the ice snow jade pendant on his person. After all, inside the space of the ice snow jade pendant, there were others awaiting to return with Yi Chun to the circulation of Heaven Divine City: Zhouyu, Bing Yi, Bing Wu, Bing Qi, and the little monkey. Yi Chun would not want to put them at risk. Immersing his divine sense into the ice snow jade pendant, he exchanged a few words with Zhouyu, Bing Yi, and the others, instructing them to cultivate within the pendant. Then, holding the life origin wheel in his hand and placing the purple lightning divine sword by his side, he also kept the half-piece of the Thunder Beast crystal given to him by the Thunder Ancient Ape close to his body. Subsequently, Yi Chun closed his eyes and entered deep into cultivation. After a little over a month had passed, Yi Chun even flew directly into the life origin wheel to continue his cultivation at 100-fold acceleration of time.